Just as the sea of lava rumbled, Chu Shuang vanished. He appeared far in the distance. "It seems that you're afraid? If you're this afraid of dying, you shouldn't have even come," said Long Chen, ignoring the sea of lava and instead gazing contemptuously at Chu Shuang's caution. In truth, Chu Shuang was correct to do this. Long Chen's ephemeral movement technique was truly frightening. Once Long Chen approached him, it would be dangerous. However, he didn't expect that Long Chen would simply stand there, quietly looking at his display. Chu Shuang felt a burning sensation on his face. "Idiot, if you're not afraid of dying, why don't you just go die?" roared Chu Shuang. "I want to, but the heavens refuse to accept me, and hell rejects me." "I can't do anything about it," said Long Chen, shrugging helplessly. Even at such a time, Long Chen was so confident. The sea of lava had already surrounded him, and he had lost the initiative. But seeing Long Chen looking down on him, Chu Shuang was enraged. However, he was also delighted. He had prepared many backups precisely because he was worried about Long Chen escaping his control. Unexpectedly, Long Chen was cooperating with him. The sea of lava quickly spread, leaving only a small space around Long Chen. "Long Chen, you're very arrogant. But you'll pay a huge price for that arrogance today. You have confidence in yourself, but have you heard that those who drown are people who know how to swim? As for those with tough mouths, they are all beaten to death for them." Chu Shuang had easily summoned a sea of lava that spanned the entire martial stage. His confidence soared. Standing on the sea of lava, he sneered at Long Chen. "There's no need to say any meaningless words to stall for time. Am I not cooperating with you perfectly for your arrangement? Don't fart out of your throat. Unleash any technique you want. I'll let you unleash your ultimate attacks, and I won't even interrupt you. As for why, it's because Boss San is just that arrogant. Use any move you wish." That big fellow and the fatty both showed their power. I was planning on being more low-key, but I gave those two too much face. Boss San doesn't dislike arrogant people, but I do dislike people who are more arrogant than me. Today, no matter what move you use, I won't stop you. I will show them that in front of the boss, they can't act like a badass. Long Chen clasped his hands behind his back. An uproar exploded amongst the spectators. Was the big fellow and fatty that he was referring to Wuya and Gui Yun? Was he challenging the two of them? Wuya had already used his physical body to block the attack of a treasure item, shocking everyone. He had also challenged Long Chen. As for Gui Yun, he hadn't challenged him, but from his gaze, it seemed that it was because he didn't even care about Long Chen. Now Long Chen was borrowing Chu Shuang to slap them in the face. Upon looking from the sea of lava and surging drakes to the completely indifferently arrogant Long Chen, cheers erupted from the spectator stands. Long Chen was actually challenging two terrifying experts. As spectators, they all looked forward to seeing a marvelous battle. Even people who didn't like him cheered just to instigate Wuya and Gui Yun's anger. In any case, they weren't the ones risking their lives. Thunderous cheering erupted. Whether it was sincere or fake, in any case, the cheering shook the stage. Long Chen had ignited their passions so easily. "Idiot, who do you think you are? You won't have that chance. You will die here." Chu Shuang was so angry that his nose was bent askew. Long Chen was actually treating him as a tool to grow his own fame, treating this battle as a performance for challenging Wuya and Gui Yun. That was an absolute insult to him. In his fury, Chu Shuang began to form hand seals. The lava instantly grew active. One moment. Long Chen suddenly raised his hand. "What? Do you have some final words?" sneered Chu Shuang. However, his hand seals continued, albeit a bit slower. Long Chen curled his lips and disdainfully said, "Is there something wrong with your head? The flame runes still aren't fully saturated. If you attack now, it will affect how your power multiplies in a bit. You must fully saturate your flame runes before the first attack in order to establish the foundation when you add in your heavenly Tao energy. Don't worry, I'll just stand here and give you plenty of time. I'm not in a rush, so why are you? If I didn't want you to unleash your full power, I'd have slapped you to death right at the start. Then wouldn't I be laughed at by those two fellows? Who do you think Boss San is?" scolded Long Chen. "You." Chu Shuang was enraged but also shocked that Long Chen had seen through his ploy. His flame runes were hidden under the lava so that no one could see them. He did this to allow those flame runes to bait heavenly Dao energy like fish bait. It was to draw out heavenly Dao energy for a terrifying attack. Just as Long Chen said, those flame runes hadn't reached their full potential yet. They were about 80%. The reason he wanted to attack now was partially due to Long Chen's instigation, but also because he felt that this would be enough to kill Long Chen. However, Long Chen had seen through it, shocking him. All his ploys were seen through, so he felt an indescribable unease and fear. Don't worry, to tell the truth, against the Chu family, there's no need for me to use any sinister plots. You can freely unleash all your power. I'll show those two toads at the bottom of a well that the world is far greater than they know. Boss San's power isn't something ants like you can imagine, said Long Chen. Ah, Long Chen, you really are arrogant. Since you're so confident, I won't stand on courtesy. Don't kneel and beg for mercy in a bit. Chu Shuang laughed furiously. Chu Shuang's hand seals changed. At this moment, the raging sea of lava settled and the flames in the sky vanished. The sea of lava covering the martial stage was as quiet as the surface of a lake. But hidden behind that calmness was a terrifying energy. Chu Shuang's body began to quiver. Veins throbbed on his forehead. Right now, strange runes flickered within his eyes. Boom! Suddenly, the sea of lava exploded. Giant flame drakes flew out of the sea, roaring. So you've taken out your heavenly flame seeds. Seeing those 9 flame dragons, Long Chen couldn't suppress his excitement. Within his body, Hua Long was roaring with excitement. 9 dragon space sealing formation. Chu Shuang roared, and his hand seals once more changed. The 9 dragons flew at Long Chen from 9 different directions. 9 giant flame dragons roared and charged at Long Chen. Their power caused the martial stage to shudder. Even the people outside the barrier felt suffocating pressure. This power, people were shocked. What kind of magical art possessed such immense pressure? Who could endure such a thing? Alright, let's do it. But don't be hasty. If he sees through it, you won't get to eat your fill. Hua Long was already filled with a sense of urgency, while Long Chen pretended to form hand seals with one hand. In reality, he had no idea what these seals were. Countless runes appeared around Long Chen. Those were dragon-shaped runes that formed a defensive barrier around him. Following that, the barrier instantly spread and crashed into the 9 dragons. Boom! Countless flame runes erupted, and lava raged like a tsunami, crashing against the stage's barrier. Startled cries rang out from the spectators. If the barrier was broken, they would be doomed. Fortunately, the barrier only quivered a few times before settling. Looking within, they saw the 9 dragons biting the giant sphere of flame runes. The sphere shuddered, but its runes circulated, blocking the charge of the flame dragons. You only have this little bit of power? You really disappoint me. Long Chen shook his head at Chu Shuang. Chu Shuang sneered, Idiot, do you realize that you're definitely dead today? Do you know what these 9 dragons are? I really don't. Seeing that Chu Shuang was stalling for time, Long Chen intentionally acted curious. These 9 flame dragons are my heavenly flame seeds. Through 3 generations of my Chu family's experts nourishing them, they finally awakened their spirituality in my generation. They are my core flame, my life flame. Do you know what that is? Long Chen almost got angry. This fellow's way of stalling for time was terrible. He cursed, Fuck, do you really think I'm an idiot? You think I don't know what a life flame is? Shut your mouth. I'll say it for you. You wish to say that a life flame can be considered a split body for you due to it having your spiritual seal. Then using this sea of lava as a vector, you will summon the power of the flames of the 10,000 Daos. After that, the 9 flame dragons will absorb that energy and unleash endless power. Under your control, the 9 flame dragons will use their killing blows, and I will be your dad caught in a jar, is that right? Just as everyone was seriously listening to Long Chen's explanation, the last thing that he said, subverting the common expression of a tortoise caught in a jar, came so suddenly that people couldn't help laughing. The tense atmosphere instantly came undone. Brother San is always like this. Mu Qingyun covered her mouth as she laughed. Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and the others were the same. For Long Chen to act like this, they knew that everything was under his control. There was no need to worry. Just at this moment, countless translucent runes appeared, flying into the barrier from every direction and merging into the sea of lava. Those translucent runes contained powerful flame auras. Once they merged into the sea of lava, they vanished. As for the sea of lava, it began to boil, its flame energy growing even denser. Boss San's words were correct. It's all going as he said. As expected of the champion of the Tao discussion convention. His eyes have long since seen through everything. Is there anyone still doubting Boss San's skills? Do their faces not hurt? Countless disciples sighed in amazement when they saw things going just as Long Chen said. The reason why they liked to watch Long Chen fight was precisely because they wanted to see his fighting corroborate what he had said during the Tao discussion. After all, principles and reality were not always in accordance. Only when they were in accordance could people truly comprehend them. Regretfully, before Long Chen, no one who participated in the Tao discussion convention also participated in the martial Tao discussion, either because their Tao principles were nothing more than words on paper, or they were simply too old. So what if you know? Didn't you still fall into my trap? Said Chu Shuang while feeling shocked that he had been seen through. Fallen into your trap? Do you think that this counts as a trap? This is nothing more than a game that a 3-year-old would play. Use any technique or scheme you want. Don't tell me that these little fish are your trump card? If that's the case, you've really disappointed me. Ignoring everything else, if I just maintain this defensive barrier, you won't even be able to break it. This is the Chu family's 4 heroes? Are you trying to be a joke? Said Long Chen disdainfully. Naturally, this barrier was created by Huolong. As the 9 dragons tore at it, Huolong absorbed their power. In order to not be exposed, Long Chen told Huolong only to absorb the power that they unleashed and not their core energy. If only the energy that they emitted was absorbed, Chu Shuang would only feel that it was a trick of the defensive barrier. Huolong was now absorbing the power of the azure rainbow flame. Although it wasn't as much as if Huolong absorbed the flame dragon's core energy, things were progressing well. After all, although Huolong was powerful, the strongest flame within it was only the Scarlet Spirit Flame, ranked 573 on the Heavenly Flame rankings. Chu Shuang's Azure Rainbow Flame was almost 400 ranks above it. The difference was immense. But even though Chu Shuang's flame control ability was quite marvelous, these 9 Heavenly Flame seeds couldn't control themselves as perfectly as Huolong. Despite having awakened their spirituality, they were still in a hazy state and didn't know how to control their power. They could only attack using the most primitive styles. Huolong would find it very difficult to directly devour them considering the power disparity. Even then, it would need to handle them fighting back as it devoured them. It would need to fall into slumber to digest their power. To lose such a powerful trump card at this critical time would be terrible for Long Chen. So what Long Chen wanted was to devour the Azure Rainbow Flame's power and immediately be able to control it. Let me see how long your mouth can stay so tough. You have no idea what my true trump card is? What are you doing? Raged Chu Shuang suddenly. Long Chen had taken out a recliner and was holding a ceramic wine cup. He then lazily leaned back against his recliner, seemingly enjoying the afternoon sun. That appearance of his infuriated Chu Shuang. He was actually treated as nothing more than empty air. Even in this battle, Long Chen was in the mood to drink wine. This was the greatest insult to him, even worse than someone shouting curses. As for the spectators, they were dumbfounded. What level of disdain and apathy was this? Luo Bing and the others were also shocked. On the other hand, Chu Shuang was going crazy with rage. As the mortal enemy of the Chu family, for the first time, I'm feeling a trace of sympathy for the Chu family's people. This doesn't count as betraying the family, right? Luo Ning covered her mouth and laughed. Chu Shuang was quivering with rage. His face was so twisted that it wasn't even possible to see his original appearance. It shouldn't count. I'm also feeling a bit of sympathy, laughed Luo Shui. Long Chen, you go too far. Chu Shuang raised his head and roared. Feeling like he was going to explode, he wanted to charge straight through the barrier and bite Long Chen to death. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to approach Long Chen. Based on the information that he had, he knew that approaching Long Chen signified death, so he could only hide in the distance. What are you shouting for? Your Chu family is most skilled in using sinister traps, right? Just keep going. I'll only put up this one barrier. If you can break it, you will be qualified to fight directly against me. Otherwise, don't even bother. Long Chen leaned back, staring at the amber wine in his cup. He couldn't even be bothered to look at his opponent. You! Chu Shuang exploded with rage, but just as he was about to change hand seals, Chu Ren's voice rang out from the depths of his soul. Dorush. Let him be arrogant for now. Continue wearing down the power of his barrier and accumulate your own power. Once you've raised your attack power enough, launch the killing blow. Blow him up along with his barrier. The Chu family's 4 heroes had come prepared. They actually weren't given special treatment from Silver Moon City, so the reason why they could chat and support each other even through the formation was because they had 4 Faith Divine Beads. Through the Faith Divine Beads, they were capable of transmitting their energy and information. However, their goal was to kill Long Chen, Bai Shishi, as well as the Luo family's heavenly geniuses. Unfortunately, Chu Gan had been too arrogant in his fight against Long Chen, saying that he wouldn't use their combination techniques unless he was going to be defeated. As a result, by the time he wanted to use it, it was already too late. Fortunately, they managed to save his life at the last moment. However, their trick was seen through by Long Chen, and they hadn't managed to use it again. Today, they immediately joined forces against Long Chen. All 4 of them had linked up their energy through the Faith Divine Beads. However, they had yet to use that power yet. They didn't know if this combination art had been seen through yet, but they hoped to keep it secret so that they could use the same method to kill Bai Shishi later. Chu Shuang slowly calmed himself down. Thinking about it, Chu Ren was correct. Why bother quibbling with a dead person? So, he slowly formed hand seals, causing countless runes to gather from outside the barrier into the sea of lava. The 9 dragons continued to bite at Long Chen's runic barrier. Runic chains appeared and bound the runic sphere, making sure that Long Chen was tightly bound. However, Long Chen completely ignored Chu Shuang's actions. He seemed to be contently savoring his wine. Despite how powerful the 9 flame dragons grew, they were nothing more than large oafs. Huolong was easily capable of duping them. As time passed, Huolong absorbed more and more of their energy, strengthening itself. The most laughable thing was that if Huolong wanted to digest the Azure Rainbow Flame's core energy, it would require quite a bit of effort. But Chu Shuang was saving the Azure Rainbow Flame's core energy, and so he was using Heavenly Dao Flames to support his flame dragons. As a result, those Heavenly Dao Flames became the perfect nutrients that helped Huolong absorb the Azure Rainbow Flame. Clearly, Chu Shuang was worried that Huolong wouldn't be able to absorb his flame and was helping out. It was to the extent that Long Chen didn't even feel good about provoking him further. Luo Bing and the others did start to feel some worry upon seeing endless flame runes gathering into Chu Shuang's lava, but seeing how confident Long Chen was, they pushed their worry aside. After the top 128 were decided, the time limit was essentially removed. It was mostly there to prevent someone from stalling and interfering with the convention's rhythm. However, the top 128 were true experts. Everyone wished for their battles to drag on so that they would get to see more. Unfortunately, the majority of these experts preferred to beat their opponents in the shortest time, so victory or defeat was often decided in just a few moves. It was rare for a battle to take more than an incense stick's worth of time. Since there was no time limit, Long Chen couldn't be bothered to stop things. Huolong continued to absorb the flames. However, seeing Long Chen not summon a manifestation or even enter a battle state, quite a few people were sweating for him. Once his barrier was broken, the terrifying attack would crush him before he could summon a second defense. Time passed quickly. An incense stick's worth of time passed, but his barrier was still holding solidly. There wasn't the slightest sign of it breaking. However, suddenly, the sea of lava surged. The 9 flame dragons blazed with divine light. Die! The silent Chu Shuang suddenly roared, and an immense power erupted out of the 9 flame dragons' mouths. Boom! The aura of the 9 dragons instantly grew by several times, and Long Chen's barrier began to rumble. Chu Shuang's sudden attack caused everyone to jump. As the 9 dragons pressed down on it, Long Chen's barrier quivered intensely. The slumbering Long Chen was woken. Long Chen, you'll pay the price for your arrogance. Die in your terror and regret. Chu Shuang sneered as he could sense Long Chen's barrier weakening. The 9 dragons were crushing it. Oh, you must have another big move, said Long Chen. Of course. Just watch. Chu Shuang raised his head and laughed. After rapidly forming hand seals, a divine statue appeared behind him. A flame rune then lit up on his forehead. At the same time, an identical rune lit up on all 9 flame dragons' heads. The martial stage sank. Long Chen's defense instantly became covered in cracks, causing by Shishi and the others' expressions to change. Ha, Long Chen, you're too naive. My heavenly flame seeds require my heavenly flame spirit to unleash their true power. Moreover, with Lord Brahma's divine statue supporting me, the flames of the 10,000 Daos are mine to control. You cannot escape your death any longer. As Chu Shuang laughed, the divine statue behind him glowed. All the flame energy within heaven and earth grew active, and even the spectators felt like the surrounding space was about to ignite. Their souls were roasting. As for the 9 flame dragons, as they bit at Long Chen's defensive barrier, cracks covered the entire barrier as if it might shatter at any moment. However, within the barrier, Long Chen didn't show the slightest bit of panic. This barrier can absorb the outside world's energy to repair itself. As long as it isn't instantly broken, it will constantly restore itself. If you don't believe me, just look. Just at that moment, everyone saw some of the cracks fade. It really was restoring itself. However, this wasn't it restoring itself. It was just Hualong acting. Hualong had condensed the core energy of the azure rainbow flame, and flames that were of the same nature had great difficulty harming each other. Hualong was just acting according to Long Chen's instructions, faking that the barrier was near destruction. Unless you destroy my barrier in one blow, it's meaningless. Long Chen stood up from his recliner and stretched nonchalantly. He didn't seem the slightest bit concerned. The cracks on the barrier were slowly fading. It seemed that it wouldn't be long before the barrier was fully restored, shocking everyone. If you really are naive, I'll show you my true killing blow. Chu Shuang sneered and pressed his hands together, chanting some scripture. As the chanting rang out, flame runes appeared within heaven and earth. They flooded into the sea of lava. As a result, the sea of lava grew explosively along with the martial stage. The 9 flame dragons also grew with it. It's the Nirvana scripture. Startled cries rang out. The Nirvana scripture was known as the number 1 flame element sutra of the 9 heavens and 10 lands, the strongest of all flame element techniques. It was famous to the extent that only a few people had not heard of it. With the support of the scripture, all the flame energy within heaven and earth fell under his control. As a result, Long Chen's barrier once more became covered in cracks. One of the dragon's teeth even pierced through it. Bastards! They're cheating! Suddenly, a startled cry split the air. Everyone followed where that person was pointing to see that Chu Gan, Chu Zhen, and Chu Ren were also forming hand seals and chanting. A rune had appeared on their foreheads as well. The blankets covering their movements had been blown apart, revealing their actions. Chu Shuang was using too much power for them to help him without anyone noticing. They're joining forces to kill Boss Long San. Despicable. A flagrant violation of the rules. Long Chen's barrier became riddled with cracks. It was on the verge of destruction. Just at that moment, a flame spear pierced through the back of Chu Shuang's head. The rune on his forehead was shattered by the spear. Chu Gan, Chu Zhen, and Chu Ren's heads all exploded at the same time. This sudden change made everyone jump in shock. After that, the barrier around Long Chen vanished. A dragon roar then rang out, and a flame dragon flew out, opening its mouth. Like a whale taking in water, it sucked in the 9 flame dragons and the sea of lava, as well as that crumbled rune on Chu Shuang's forehead. The martial stage returned to its normal appearance with the loss of the sea of lava. With a thud, Chu Shuang's headless corpse fell in front of Long Chen's feet. Everyone, including Bai Shishi, was stunned. Long Chen had not just killed Chu Shuang, but he had even slain Chu Gan, Chu Ren, and Chu Zhen at the same time. It was sudden and bizarre. Looking at the corpse at his feet, Long Chen shook his head. "So sorry, I forgot to tell you that my flame control is not inferior to anyone. How does it feel to die to your own heavenly flame?" Originally, Long Chen had been planning on killing Chu Shuang openly. However, when Hualong gained control over the azure rainbow flame, it also became capable of controlling the sea of lava's power without Chu Shuang even noticing. Furthermore, absorbing so much energy caused Hualong's intelligence to rise. Although it still hadn't reached the point of transforming, it had recovered the majority of its spirituality from the martial heaven continent. Long Chen then had Hualong try using its energy through the sea of lava in preparation for a killing blow. But due to linking with the other three, Chu Shuang's sense of danger had grown muddled. He didn't even realize that Hualong had gained control over his domain. Just as the four of them began to chant the scripture together, Hualong attacked, killing the main body, Chu Shuang. When the main body suddenly died, their combination technique was broken. As a result, the terrifying manifestation brought on by the Nirvana scripture lost its balance, and the backlash took 3 of their lives as well. Everything was within Long Chen's calculations. No one understood Nirvana scripture better than he did. The only difference was that he was supposed to be the one to launch the killing blow, but it had been switched to Hualong. A trivial difference. As a result of this, no one else knew what technique he had used to kill the 4 of them. It gave him an extra layer of mystery. Furthermore, he also saw Wuya and Gui Yun's expressions change ever so slightly. They hadn't managed to see through the clues. "I'll scare them to death." Long Chen sneered inside. Would they continue to act badass now? Just then, Long Chen was sent out of the martial stage. He hadn't even had to do anything, but the 4 heavenly geniuses of the Chu family were dead. There was no clapping this time, only a silent fear. In comparison to Wuya and Gui Yun's 1-blow kills, Long Chen's no-blow, 4-kill result was far more stunning. "Boss is mighty." Qin Feng was the first to congratulate Long Chen. In comparison to the other people's shock, he didn't find it odd at all. No matter what happened when it came to Long Chen, it wasn't that surprising. "What did you use to kill them?" Despite knowing that she shouldn't ask, Lu Mingxian couldn't help herself. "I didn't do anything. He simply killed himself. My guess is that they had some enmity between them, so he dragged the 3 of them along with him. Come, let us pray for them." "In truth, I don't feel like they were that bad," said Long Chen solemnly. "Screw off. Only a ghost would believe you." Lu Mingxian rolled her eyes. "Actually, even a ghost wouldn't believe it." Long Chen returned to his seat and looked inside the primal chaos space, wanting to see how Hualong was. However, when he looked inside, his body quivered. An expression of wild delight appeared on his face. He almost jumped out of joy. Heaven's Heavenly Dao Fruit. Inside the primal chaos space, the Heavenly Dao tree that had been silent for a long time had borne fruit once more. There were now 4 fruits on its branches. The Heavenly Dao tree was the source of the Dragonblood Legion's rise. Without it, the current Dragonblood Legion wouldn't exist. It had completely changed their fates. Upon entering the immortal world, the Heavenly Dao tree's fruit had vanished. It was listless, as if it was dead. However, today, a new light appeared on its leaves. This change made Long Chen take a second look, only to find that it had borne fruit. "Long Chen, are you all right? You're frightening me." Seeing Long Chen start shaking as soon as he sat down, and adding on his strange expression, Lu Mingxian couldn't help asking him if he was all right. I'm fine. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating for them to continue watching the battles. His mind then sank into the primal chaos space. These 4 Heavenly Dao fruits should belong to Chu Gan, Chu Zhen, Chu Ren, and Chu Shuang. It seems that killing primals will result in Heavenly Dao fruits and will also nourish the Heavenly Dao tree. I really have profited this time. The Dragon Blood warriors can all become primals. Hee, the Dragon Blood Legion will definitely shake the entire world once more. Long Chen's blood heated up, and he wanted to find all the Dragon Blood warriors once more. At that time, who could stop them? Haha. Thinking of this, Long Che laughed. This laugh disturbed by Shishi and the others who were watching the competition. You've gone crazy. Lu Mingxian stared at Long Chen, almost so disturbed that she took out her weapon. You can keep watching. Qin Feng, come with me. Long Chen left with Qin Feng. In a private room, Long Chen gave him a heavenly Dao fruit. Boss, this heavenly Dao fruit. Qin Feng jumped in shock. The heavenly Dao fruits had left a deep impression on him. It was these fruits that had changed his fate. Now that they had reappeared, his heart pounded. Now he knew why Long Chen was so emotional. This heavenly Dao fruit meant that his fate was about to change once more. Eat it and see what happens. I'll guard you. Long Chen was even more impatient than Qin Feng. He urgently wished to know if this heavenly Dao fruit could do what he was imagining. Qin Feng nodded and took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He devoured the fruit in just a few bites. After that, his entire body instantly grew flushed, as if he was being boiled. An incomparably vast energy then swelled within his body. His clothes blew apart. Countless blood vessels then bulged throughout his body like thin crawling serpents. It was a frightening appearance, but Qin Feng's expression was good. With his blood vessels bulging, it was almost possible to see inside the vessels. Runes were flowing through them. His skin then split open, and blood leaked out. The process was very painful. An ordinary person would definitely be screaming. However, to the Dragon Blood warriors who had experienced countless heavenly tribulations that had tempered their meridians, this was nothing. Qin Feng was quickly covered in blood. It then formed scabs that covered his entire body before starting to fall, revealing new skin. His blood vessels once more bulged, and his new skin split open and bled. It then scabbed, fell, and was reborn again and again. It was like a butterfly breaking free of its cocoon. It was repeated rebirths. Long Chen could clearly sense Qin Feng's blood qi strengthening with every rebirth. After 7 sheddings, Qin Feng's blood qi had risen to a level that shocked Long Chen. Long Chen grabbed Qin Feng's arm and sensed the new power of his physical body and nodded. Boss, I'm now an awakened primal. Qin Feng clenched his fists excitedly. Feeling the endless power flowing within his body, he wanted to find some experts to fight against. It's too bad. If I had known that killing primals would condense heavenly Dao fruits, I would have killed a few primals on the way here. Long Chen sighed. If Qin Feng had consumed a heavenly Dao fruit earlier, he wouldn't have been eliminated from the competition. It's fine. I'll conceal my power and give them a nice surprise at a critical time. Qin Feng was very satisfied. He didn't care about the competition as what he pursued was power. Long Chen nodded. Take care to cover up your blood qi. Occasionally dressing up like a pig to eat the tiger is fun. Long Chen then continued checking Qin Feng's body and couldn't help frowning. Curious. The 4 of them had flame energy in their bodies. You consumed their heavenly Dao fruit, but there's not even the slightest flame energy fluctuation. In the mortal world, the heavenly Dao fruits could be differentiated by their element, but the 4 heavenly Dao fruits he had just obtained had no such differentiation. There was no way to tell who they had come from. Qin Feng's physical body was powerful. On the martial heaven continent, he had walked the path of the body cultivator. Hence, his blood qi had now grown to an astonishing level. Even in the 9 prefecture convention, only a few primals could match his current blood qi. Long Chen suddenly had a thought. Were the immortal world's heavenly Dao fruits based on each person's talent? If that was the case, then he really had profited. Regretfully, he didn't have more people to test it on. He could only wait for a chance. After all, primal heavenly Dao fruits were extremely precious, and he didn't want to waste them. Qin Feng had just awakened his primal bloodline, and his fluctuations weren't completely steady. Because of that, Long Chen told him to rest for a few days to grow accustomed to it. It would be best if no one realized the difference in his aura. Qin Feng went into seclusion, while Long Chen returned to his own room. It took him a long time to settle his emotions. Primals were those that had made a further breakthrough from their own ancestors' powerful bloodlines. Only someone who could condense special bloodline runes could be called a primal. As for Qin Feng, he was originally nothing more than an ordinary person from the mortal world. But the heavenly Dao fruit had allowed him to easily awaken a primal bloodline. This heavenly Dao fruit was a heaven-defying treasure. That's right. I forgot to check on Hualong. Long Chen clapped his forehead and hastily checked. Big brother. He was delighted to find Hualong in a sea of flames. Moreover, Hualong was actually capable of speaking. Good. You're not that far from transforming now. How are you? Asked Long Chen. Hee, I've profited this time. That fellow gave me all his power, and it's also very easy to digest. I should be done with it in one day, said Hualong. Hee, good. With you, I'm even more confident in this martial Dao convention. That golden dragon scale will definitely be mine. Long Chen clenched his fists, his confidence soaring. Hualong's intelligence had recovered. Together, the two of them would be able to cooperate even better. This battle benefited Long Chen immensely. It was because Hualong had gained control over the Azure Rainbow Flame. The Azure Rainbow Flame was wasted in Chu Shuang's hands. Although that fellow was talented, his flame control could only be called immature. It looked mighty, but its actual killing power could not be brought out. However, in Hualong's hands, it was different. Hualong was a flame spiritual body, and it could unleash the full potential of the Azure Rainbow Flame. Other than the Azure Rainbow Flame, there were also the 4 heavenly Dao fruits. With them, Long Chen saw a bright and open path in front of him. He would continue building the Dragonblood Legion into the immortal world's #1 legion. This time, the Chu family's people had been sending him a gift, and Long Chen simply couldn't refuse. In comparison to this gift, even those 2 treasure item arm bracers felt somewhat insignificant. Time passed. It was only after 5 days that the next round to cut down the 64 experts to 32 started. This was because after the top 64 were decided, there was another round for those that had been eliminated previously to fight for a spot in the top 100. This would decide who would get the rewards, so it took some time. When everyone returned to the stage, cheering once more exploded when Long Chen arrived. Last time, even when the Chu family's people had been cheating, he had used some unknown method to kill all 4 of them. At that time, they were too stunned to cheer. Perhaps they wanted to make up for it now, so today's cheering was particularly loud. This time, Long Chen waved his hand and cupped his fists toward those people to express his thanks before walking to his spot. Previously, the frontrunners for the champion position were Wuya and Gui Yun. However, people had to re-evaluate this 9-prefecture convention. Other than Wuya and Gui Yun, there was now a dark horse in the form of Long Chen. The power that he had displayed was not inferior to theirs. Furthermore, there were also several other powerful experts. Amongst them, Long Chen's side took up 4 of them. Up until now, Bai Shishi had only displayed her manifestation. No one could counter her metal energy, and just her manifestation alone was enough to make her opponents admit defeat. Hence, she had yet to reveal her true power. Young Master Changchuan was the same. It was unknown who had spread news of him previously fighting Wuya, but this news shook everyone. Adding on that he came from a life-forbidden area, people felt an even higher level of regard for him. As for Bai Xiaole, he was the greatest marvel. No one had yet to counter his 3 flower pupils. Anyone who fought with him could only sigh sadly. His spatial energy was impossible to break free from. However, among the 4 of them, people were not so optimistic for Bai Xiaole. Compared to Long Chen, Bai Shishi, and young Master Changchuan, people felt like he was almost cheating. Bai Xiaole's 3 flower pupils truly did feel like his only strong point. But real experts had to be strong in all aspects. Just having one move wasn't enough to make you an expert. Furthermore, Bai Xiaole appeared too immature and was not steady enough. He didn't have that domineeringness of an expert. Although his 3 flower pupils were strong, against true experts, he might be countered. Other than them, 2 other figures drew the most attention. One was the Zither woman from the Zither sect, while the other was the mysterious one who seemed to have merged with the Tao. She was capable of using heavenly Tao energy without forming hand seals or chanting. From the start, no one had managed to even approach the Zither woman. In the end, they all admitted defeat. As for the other woman, she was never forced to use a second move against her opponents. Even powerful primals were defeated, sometimes without even realizing how they had lost. These two had yet to reveal their true power, making people feel like they were unfathomable. Many experts were guessing just who would ultimately take the champion's crown. With so many powerful competitors, everyone grew even more excited to watch the matches. After all, the majority of these people had come to gain experience. By watching such high-level battles, they could learn something that matched their own style. In the past, everyone had essentially known who would win by the time the top 100 was decided. There was no suspense. However, this time, it was truly a fight between powerful experts. No one dared to say just who would win. Hence, the entire island was covered in an air of suspense. This was definitely the most marvelous 9 prefecture convention that people could recall. We've entered the top 64. Boss, give me your blessing. Let me not encounter those monsters. Xiaole prayed as he saw the lots being picked. How are you going to follow boss like this? Demanded Qin Feng. This fellow was too childish. He had such an amazing divine ability, but he was like a novice. Qin Feng, it seems that your aura has changed. Did you make a breakthrough? Asked young Master Changchuan. Hearing this, Shishi and the others checked and found that Qin Feng's aura did seem a bit different. But they were unable to tell what exactly was different. I've fought many battles lately, and under boss's guidance, I've gained some new comprehension of the martial Tao. There was a definite increase in my mental realm. This 9 prefecture convention has truly benefited me, said Qin Feng. In just a few days, Qin Feng had condensed his own bloodline runes and could control his bloodline power. However, no matter how he concealed himself, the feeling of controlling this absolute power still changed him. His gaze, his confidence, they all changed the air around him. Young Master Changchuan and the others had sensed this. Just then, Long Chen's tablet lit up. Long Chen looked and didn't recognize the name, so he felt indifferent. However, just then, the name of his opponent became dim, which indicated that his opponent had admitted defeat. They couldn't even be bothered to set foot onto the stage. Long Chen laughed. It seemed that killing those 4 fellows from the Chu family had frightened quite a few people. Even in the top 32, people were still admitting defeat directly. Shishi and young Master Changchuan were both calm. Their opponents weren't Wuya, Gui Yun, or those 2 women, so there was no suspense. However, when Xiaole saw the name on his tablet, he almost wept. Everyone quickly looked. Liao Yuhuang. Liao Yuhuang. That was the name of the woman from the Zither sect. The name was a bit strange and not one for a woman. But it was precisely due to this that it was easier to remember. Of course, Xiaole had also memorized it. He had memorized the names of all those he considered monsters. Every time the lots were drawn, he would cover up his tablet and look at the characters one by one. As soon as he saw that their surname was different, he would relax. It was like he was gambling with his tablet. However, today his luck wasn't good. As expected, whatever you feared would happen. His opponent was Liao Yuhuang. Xiaole, it's your turn, said Lu Mingxian. How can this be? I'm the 7th match, exclaimed Xiaole, in a panic as he tried to think of how to win. People in the first 6 matches all admitted defeat, said Lu Mingxian helplessly. Just at this moment, Xiaole's tablet began to flash. It really was his turn. In order to win the match to get into the top 64, many people had ended up putting everything on the line. Because of it, they were still injured. Whether they were 64th or 4th, it made no difference to them as the rewards were the same. Hence, they forfeited because they had no intention of getting into the top 3. The first 7 matches at the start, including Long Chen's, all had people directly admit defeat, allowing their opponents to easily pass. Everyone was now much clearer about the power of their competitors. Hence, if their power was equal, there was no need to go all out against them. If their opponent was too strong, then there was no point in even going on stage. Right now, Xiaole was transported to the stage. When he saw the zither woman, he almost wept. But he thickened his face to greet her. Hello, beautiful zither big sister. Junior brother Xiaole has come to learn a bit from senior sister due to boss's orders. If senior sister could give me some pointers, junior brother would be endlessly grateful. I hope senior sister will give face to my boss and have some mercy and not make junior brother's loss too ugly. Boss said that he would personally treat big sister to a meal after the convention is over. What nonsense! When did I ever say such a thing? Chen was speechless. When did this little fellow get such a smooth mouth? Ah, it really is a case of people stained black by the environment. Even this innocent child Xiaole has learned to spout insincere guilt words, said Shishi indifferently, clearly implying that Xiaole had learned the wrong things from Chen. Your boss is Chen, correct? Liao Yuhuang smiled at Xiaole. Yes, it's him. I know that I can't beat you and wanted to admit defeat, but boss said that a beautiful and kind woman like you won't kill me. Most importantly, he said that exchanging blows with you will benefit me endlessly, so I hope for some pointers, said Xiaole, exceedingly courteously. Hearing that, Chen suddenly came to an understanding. Even before Xiaole's 3 flower eyes were activated, he had possessed the power to see through a person's power. It was precisely due to this that he had taken Chen as his boss. This was Xiaole's innate talent. He had definitely sensed something, which was why he was being so courteous to Liao Yuhuang and acting inferior. This way, Liao Yuhuang would definitely have mercy, and there would be no danger even if he was defeated. It seemed that he really did have some smarts. Junior brother is too courteous. Your 3 flower pupils are manifested from an immemorial divine art. It is filled with endless profundities. Who would dare to be so arrogant as to say that they could give you pointers? However, your 3 flower pupils have just awakened, and your usage is still rough. There are too many flaws. Against an ordinary expert, it's fine. But against supreme experts, when your pupil arts change, you leave yourself open to having your life taken. Alright, since Brother Long is willing to say such a thing, I will embarrass myself. Just then, the barrier separating them vanished. Xiaole had long since prepared his manifestation. Hence, at this moment, an illusory image appeared behind him. It was a pair of giant eyes. This manifestation was not a primal's manifestation because Xiaole had not awakened a primal bloodline. When those giant eyes appeared, it was as if the heavens had set their gaze on Liao Yuhuang. Space around her layered, as if the world was thrown into chaos and heaven and earth had been displaced. Liao Yuhuang's body quivered slightly. After that, she rested her hand on her zither strings. With a single note, an invisible sound wave shot out, restoring the chaotic world. What? All the experts that had previously fought against Xiaole were shocked. They had all been defeated by this move. It had to be known that when Xiaole activated his pupil art, heaven and earth were thrown into chaos. Left and right, front and back, up and down, there was no way for them to tell the direction. They might try to charge at Xiaole, only to find themselves getting further and further away. It was a feeling that had driven them mad. However, Liao Yuhuang instantly broke this technique. How could they not be shocked? Xiaole seemed to have expected this. Hence, his hand seals changed, and 3 flower petals appeared in his giant eyes. The 3 flower petals then began to revolve. The martial stage instantly changed. It quivered and swayed. Suddenly, the floor of the martial stage became the roof, and the feeling of spatial displacement made people nauseous. Those who had fought Xiaole began to vomit. It was as if they had returned to that terrifying nightmare. The world was spinning around them. Now that the martial stage was fully activated and battles were fought one by one, the martial stage drew people in, making them feel as if they were inside as well. This was very beneficial to their comprehension. It was even said that in the final clash, people would be able to freely choose between the viewpoints of the final fighters, as if they were the ones fighting. However, due to being drawn in, quite a few people felt so terrible that they had no choice but to close their eyes and stop watching. Space layered and inverted. Now, bolts of lightning streaked through the air, and giant wind blades whirled through space. As for Xiaole himself, he had vanished, leaving only those giant eyes. They were like the eyes of a god. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck the ground, blasting it apart. This made everyone jump in shock. This isn't an illusion? Just as they thought that this spatial chaos was nothing more than a kind of illusion, a physical attack appeared. After that, zither music began to ring out and ripples spread. This inverted chaotic world then began to settle. Wherever the music passed, a calm world followed. Big sister, be careful. I'm going to use one of my ultimate moves. Xiaole's voice rang out. Suddenly, space twisted and sharp swords rained down on Liao Yuhuang from every direction. How is that possible? Upon seeing those swords, countless people were filled with disbelief. These endless sharp swords rained down on Liao Yuhuang. Moreover, every sword possessed a different element. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, light, darkness, every kind of energy rained down. How can one person control so many kinds of energy? Everyone was shocked to see these endless swords. This simply wasn't possible. Furthermore, every sword possessed a powerful aura. They were no illusions. Xiaole is this powerful? His pupil arts can control this many kinds of energy? Luo Bing and the others were also shocked. Even after knowing him for so long, they hadn't realized that he possessed such power. In theory, it's possible. Pupil arts stemmed from the Desolate Era's Heavenly Eye race, one of the most mysterious primitive races. It's said that the Heavenly Eye race isn't even human. They're a natural divine race. Their eyes are miniature versions of the Heavenly Daos, and they are capable of using all forms of power within the Heavenly Daos. Legend has it that one branch of the Heavenly Eye race ended up marrying the human race, resulting in the human race inheriting those pupil arts. The Heavenly Eye race was enraged when they learned of this and directly wiped out that branch. It is said that they even pursued the descendants of that bloodline, but for some reason, the Heavenly Eye race suddenly vanished. Records about them exist only in legend, and any documents related to them are extremely muddled. There's no way to tell what's true or false. Pupil arts were originally called Heavenly Eyes in the Desolate Era. The translations of the human race's records say that they are the eyes of the Heavenly Daos. When cultivated to the pinnacle, they can manifest the Heavenly Daos and rewrite the workings of the universe. They can control the cycle of life and death. The Heavenly Eye race is too mysterious, and it can't even be confirmed that they ever existed. But there is one thing that can be said: their pupil arts are capable of controlling every kind of natural energy. For a normal person, using even just clashing powers like water and fire could instantly cause them to lose their life, but Xiaole possesses the power to use every element. Even I envy him, said Long Chen. Xiaole possesses this kind of unrivaled energy? Doesn't that mean that he can beat Liao Yuhuang? Asked Mu Qingyun, feeling even more excited for Xiaole. Foolish girl, how many times have I told you that there is no such thing as an unrivaled power? Within the endless Tao, there are always counters. No matter how great Xiaole's talent is, it's useless. His opponent is not such a weak figure. Furthermore, this fellow has no brain. Long Chen shook his head. Everyone was startled, not understanding why Long Chen would suddenly evaluate him as having no brain. Just as the countless swords pierced toward Liao Yuhuang shook her head and sighed slightly. She suddenly rested her zither on her knees and played it like a pipa. 5 notes rang out. After that, those swords rotted and crumbled into nothingness. For a moment, everyone could only stare in dumbfounded silence. Just what had happened? How could such a terrifying attack just dissipate like smoke in the wind? Those 5 notes rang out clearly, and the spatial twisting vanished. The hidden Xiaole also appeared, staring in shock at her. Liao Yuhuang said, "You have such an enviable divine ability, but you don't know how to use it. You can only unleash the most shallow power of the 3 flower pupils. Spatial displacement is only the entry to the 3 flower pupils, but even this technique isn't being used properly by you. Although space looks to be in chaos, time is not, giving it the appearance but not the killing power. Furthermore, when you used so many kinds of energy to attack me, it looked frightening on the surface, but all those energies were clashing with each other. Even an ordinary primal would only be scared when attacked. Power isn't something where the more there is, the better. To increase the quantity by reducing the purity is a great taboo of cultivation. You should choose the kind of energy that you like and specialize in it. That way, you will be able to go further. Hearing that made Chen nod his head. As expected, cultivators of the music Dao all had high mental realms. She instantly saw through Xiaole. When it came to Xiaole's power, Chen didn't want to give him too many pointers. Now still wasn't the time. He had just awakened the 3 flower pupils, and his mental realm was still adrift. Having him suffer a bit now wasn't a bad thing. The other experts in the stands all nodded inside. Liao Yuhuang possessed a noble air, and she didn't give off any hint of arrogance or darkness. It was a feeling that made others like and respect her more. Many thanks for your pointers. Junior brother is fully convinced. Xiaole bowed deeply toward Liao Yuhuang. You should still have more moves, no? Are you admitting defeat already? Asked Liao Yuhuang curiously. Xiaole shook his head. Using them would be meaningless. The difference is too great. Big sister, you've seen through all my moves. If we continue, I'm afraid my confidence will shatter. Although Big sister is nice and helped me resolve my misunderstandings, I'm afraid that my current heart can't endure the impact. Thank you. You're even nicer to me than my real sister. Xiaole was then sent out. Chen was speechless. That final line of Xiaole's was too much. Shish's expression was clearly dark. However, since her face was always icy, it wasn't that easy to sense. In truth, Shishi did care about him, she just didn't want others to tell. Naturally, Chen had the wits to not expose her. After all, that was their family matter. Boss, I feel like I can properly cultivate now. I understand why you rejected me so many times before. Starting tomorrow, I'll properly cultivate with boss, said Xiaole. No, you still haven't found your reason to get stronger, so anything I taught you would be meaningless. You still wouldn't be able to become a true expert. Just wait. Your chance will come soon. Chen shook his head. Xiaole was still not qualified to become an expert. Talent was only one part of it. Why? Demanded Xiaole. West. Boss told you to wait, so wait. Just remember that boss always has a reason when he says something, said Qin Feng, pulling Xiaole down and not letting him trouble Chen. Of the 32 matches, only 8 actually fought. The rest were all peacefully resolved. After today's competition ended, the next matches were decided immediately. Curiously, Chen, Shishi, and young Master Changchuan's opponents all directly admitted defeat right on the spot. Once the lots were decided, the top 16 were basically formed. Every match ended before it even began with someone admitting defeat. Even the Huayun Trading Company's people were dumbfounded by this. Such a thing had never occurred before. After a discussion, they decided to directly draw the lots for the top 8. When young Master Changchuan saw the name of his opponent, his expression became tense. Wuya. Young Master Changchuan actually ended up matched against Wuya. Hence, everyone's heart clenched. Shishi's opponent directly admitted defeat. But when they looked at Chen's tablet, they sucked in a cold gasp. The name on it was Liao Yuhuang, the unfathomable expert of the Zither sect. Shishi and Gui Yun's opponents admitted defeat, so there were only 6 matches for the top 8. Do you have confidence? Shishi spoke to young Master Changchuan for the first time. Young Master Changchuan's expression was grave. I'm probably not his match. But I'll do my best to force out his trump cards. Young Master Changchuan was also a true expert. He had even fought against Wuya before. That battle had lasted thousands of exchanges before young Master Changchuan lost to Wuya's curse. After Chen had pointed out the reason for his defeat, young Master Changchuan had felt that he could win. But Wuya's power had soared. He was now capable of receiving the attack of a treasure item with his bare body. That was unbelievable. The only ones here were allies, so young Master Changchuan could only say the truth. He couldn't beat Wuya. He could only unleash his full power and force out his trump cards. You should directly admit defeat, said Long Chen. Brother Long, young Master Changchuan's expression changed. Long Chen waved his hand. I have no intention of looking down on you. If you know you can't beat him, don't fight him. Don't let all your sharpness deflate. In a fight between experts, the chances of winning by a surprise move are very low. In the end, you are competing with power. In a one-against-one, knowing someone's trump cards or not doesn't make much of a difference. Furthermore, your full moon race specializes in power, no? His poisons and curses are your perfect counter. Even if you were equally matched, you would be at a disadvantage. Every defeat to an expert will impact their sharpness. If you lose the same person twice, then even if you are mentally prepared, you will unconsciously form an instinctive fear toward experts of that type. That's not beneficial to your future cultivation. But I'm a bit unwilling to admit defeat just like this. Young Master Changchuan clenched his fists. He came from a mysterious life-forbidden area. If he admitted defeat here, it would be a loss of face. Long Chen smiled. Didn't you say that your people don't want you to go all out in this convention anyway? If you retreat now, you can just say that you're following their orders. But, what but? Listen to me, preserve your power for when it's needed, said Long Chen. All right, I'll listen to you. Ultimately, young Master Changchuan chose to listen to Long Chen and admitted defeat. This caused an uproar. No one had expected him to admit defeat. They were disappointed. With by Xiaole defeated and young Master Changchuan admitting defeat, the High Firmament Academy's side only had Long Chen and Bai Shishi left. Once the lots were drawn, everyone returned to their residence. After one day, the battles restarted. The atmosphere was particularly tense now. Countless eyes were watching, and everyone was clutching a photographic jade, wanting to record every bit of the battles. Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiao, and the others had long since arrived on the spectator stands. They all cheered when they saw Long Chen. All the High Firmament Academy's disciples cheered for Long Chen. However, their cheering wasn't as loud as yesterday. That was because his opponent was Liao Yuhuang. Liao Yuhuang had also won their respect and admiration. Now that the two of them were fighting, they didn't know who to cheer for. One of them would definitely be defeated. What they were most worried about was both of them being injured and unable to participate in the following matches. In the battle for the top 8, Bai Shishi, Gui Yun, and Wuya directly passed. There were only 5 matches remaining. Long Chen and Liao Yuhuang were in the third match. The first match was between experts that they didn't know. This was a battle for the top 8, and both of these two primals unleashed divine arts and Dao techniques. This was an exceptionally intense battle. Neither side held back. It wasn't for the rewards but for glory. There was a huge difference between entering the top 100 and entering the top 8. If a sect's disciple could get into the top 8, then that sect's reputation would soar. As for the disciple, they would probably be set to become the future sect master. For example, if the Chu family's 4 fighters could have entered the top 8, then their reputation would soar, and they would be qualified to fight for the position of the Chu family head. In this world, there were 3 things that moved people the most: power, fame, and fortune. Any one of those things could drive a person crazy. After 2 hours, their high-tempo fighting gradually calmed down. Both of their auras were starting to drop. After one final exchange, both of them fainted. At this time, the Huayun Trading Company's people went on stage and evaluated their conditions. One of them was decided to have a bit more energy inside their body and lighter injuries, so they were declared the victor. However, that person's essence blood had been ignited to the end, so even in victory, there was no way that they could participate in the next match. The top 8 was the limit. Whoever matched up against them would be getting a free match. The second fight started. This time, one of them was that fiery, beautiful woman. Her opponent was also a very powerful primal who immediately summoned his manifestation and unleashed his full power. However, that beautiful woman only crossed her arms in front of her chest, her fingers dancing. After that, the earth exploded, and vines shot out of the ground, covering the entire martial stage. Her opponent had only just charged out when he was bound. His protective layer of qi and manifestation were both blasted apart by the vines. She's a wood element expert. Even Long Chen was stunned. This was her first time unleashing an elemental attack. The divine light on those vines even shattered that person's manifestation. It was unknown what kind of power that was. I admit defeat. Once he was bound, that person hastily gave up. As a result, the beautiful woman's hands slowly loosened, and they were both sent out. She once more won with a single move. Long Chen was then sent onto the stage along with Liao Yuhuang. Both of them stared at each other through the barrier, and the crowd fell deathly silent. This was a match between experts. All of them watched closely. As Long Chen and Liao Yuhuang appeared on the stage, everyone fell silent. Both of them were considered contesters for first place. Now that they finally met each other in the clash for the top 8, no one could predict who would win. "May I be so bold as to ask who came up with your name?" asked Long Chen. "It's my mother," answered Liao Yuhuang. "What a good name. It seems that your mother is not only skilled in the music Dao. Her mental realm must have reached an enviable level as well," said Long Chen. "No way. Boss is also going to suck up?" exclaimed Bai Xiaole in disbelief. Bai Xiaole had put on a humble appearance for fear of provoking Liao Yuhuang. He had known that she wouldn't kill him, but she could definitely have given him a miserable beating. Now, Long Chen directly praised her name. This kind of bootlicking was a bit too direct. What a coward. He fears the strong. He might put on a good show against a weakling, but he tucks his tail in between his legs when he sees a really strong person. That's right. Now everyone is seeing his true face. You were all tricked by him. This fellow doesn't have any ability. A fake hypocrite. Just like that Bai Xiaole, he becomes a coward as soon as he faces a real opponent, trying to worm his way into being friends. Long Chen, you've lost the face of all men. Hurry up and scram. In just a moment, quite a few people began to shout loudly. Unlike at the start of the convention when the martial stage's barrier blocked the outside world's influence, it was now possible to hear the people in the stands. But if someone in the top 8 could be influenced by some random shouting from the outside, they didn't deserve to be in the top 8. Brother Long gives me too much praise. But my mother can barely count as a big figure. She is in charge of the Zither sect's 17th branch sect. I'm curious, how did you know? Liao Yuhuang cocked her head at Long Chen, interested in how he had guessed this. Those people cursing Long Chen instantly shut their mouths. The one in charge of the 17th sect? Then wasn't that a sect master? No one had expected Liao Yuhuang to actually be the daughter of the Zither sect's 17th branch's sect master. That meant that she was truly a terrifying existence. The Zither sect was one of the 4 immemorial sects, and their Tao could be traced back to ancient times. Even the baptism of time hadn't interrupted its inheritance. Its foundation was shockingly profound. The 4 immemorial sects' history stretched back even further than the Bloodkill Hall. Although they were very low-key, they remained famous. Hence, for Liao Yuhuang to be the daughter of a sect master, it was no wonder that she was so powerful. Those people that had lost to her hands were fully convinced. It's very simple. From your name comes the Yu and Huang characters. They are taken from the 5 notes and 12-point scale. The 5 notes are Gong, Shang, Ju, Ji and Yu. The 12-tone scale is split according to the Yin and Yang scales. The Yang scale has 6 tones, Huangzhong, Taiku, Gushi, Ruibin, Iza, and Wangxi. The Yin scale also has 6 tones, Dalu, Zhezhong, Zhonglu, Linzhong, Nanlu, Yingzhong. Your name comes from the end of the 5 notes, Yu, and the head of the 12-tone scale, the Huang from Huangzhong. The 5 notes as the foundation with the 12-tone scale as a complement are very compatible with the heaven and earth strings, thus implying using music to merge with heaven and earth with the 10,000 Daos. The zither has 7 strings. Other than the heaven and earth strings, of the 5, the Yu note is the most mysterious and profound. Furthermore, the Huangzhong tone is the head of the 12-tone scale, capable of peering beyond the heavens. A name like Yuhuang is one made to embody the music Tao. It is the very embodiment of the principles of the heavenly Taoists. When you see fate before you, it is as if you see a dangerous path in front of you and the way that you came behind you. You must always choose where to go. I will make a wild guess that your mother gave you this name because she wished for you to understand that true learning and experience can only come from struggling through this world. Liao Yuhuang's eyes widened. She had never imagined that Long Chen had such an understanding. As for the spectators, they were lost in the clouds, not even knowing what he was talking about. But it sounded reasonable. Is boss really this amazing? He even knows these things? Exclaimed by Xiaole. Who do you think boss is? He knows everything within heaven and earth. If you wish to follow boss, you'll have to learn more, said Qinfeng with a smile. Just as everyone was staring in dumbfounded silence, Liao Yuhuang actually bowed to Long Chen. Junior's sister admires brother Long's talent. I never expected you to have such accomplishments in music theory. I'd like to ask for some pointers from you. Long Chen returned her courtesy but shook his head. When it comes to music theory, I know merely the slightest bit. It can't count as any accomplishment. The only reason I know this little bit is because someone I know is a true expert in this regard. I have been influenced by her, and while I am unworthy of her music, even a foolish oaf like me can learn a bit over time. There's someone even more skilled than you? Then I'd like for you to introduce us. I would be endlessly grateful, said Liao Yuhuang. This lover of mine ascended at the same time as me from the lower plane, but we've lost connection since then, and I haven't found a trace of her in the immortal world. However, after ascending, I would guess that she would join your zither sect. So I was actually thinking of requesting Fairy Yuhuang to ask around your sect to see if there is a newcomer named Ziyen. Long Chen's heartbeat quickened. However, he knew just how low this possibility was. If Ziyen had really gone to the zither sect, there was no way that she would be some nameless disciple. With her talent and comprehension, she would soar. As expected, Liao Yuhuang shook her head. My apologies. Our branch sect doesn't have such a person. As for other branch sects, I can't say. The branch sects are spread far and wide and rarely interact with each other. We might not come into contact for thousands of years. I can report to the sect master when I get back to help you investigate, but you shouldn't raise your hopes. Even amongst our connections, there are only 4 branch sects that we have regular contact with. We are unable to reach the other branch sections. Then I'll thank Fairy Yuhuang for the effort. Now, when it comes to us, Long Chen rubbed his fists awkwardly. The barrier between them had already vanished, and Long Chen's meaning was clear. Now that they were done talking, it was time to get to business. Long Chen's goal was the Golden Dragon Scale. It didn't matter if his opponent was friendly, as that dragon scale had to be his. Liao Yuhuang smiled. Brother Long is very capable. I can tell that you view first place as something you must obtain. Normally, I should retreat here. But I also feel unwilling to do so. How about I instead play a song for you? Long Chen smiled. He understood her meaning. Ultimately, Liao Yuhuang wanted to test him. Liao Yuhuang then pressed her hand against her zither. A single note rang out, one that caused every expert's expression to change. The sound of the zither was different. It was now capable of piercing the clouds and splitting rock. It used to be soft and gentle, but now it contained dense murderous intent. As the sound passed through the formation and entered their souls shuddered. Those with weaker spiritual strength felt a sharp pain, and they hastily circulated their full power to resist it. At this moment, shocked expressions appeared on their faces. How terrifying! She has yet to use even a fraction of her power in her previous fights. She always condensed swords with her zither strings to attack. But now her zither music directly attacks the soul. There's no way to defend against it. Before this, Liao Yuhuang had only used a single technique to beat her opponents. She only took out her real abilities when Long Chen appeared. We are protected by the barrier and at such a distance. So just how much stronger is this move on Long Chen, who is on the martial stage? Seeing how unaffected Long Chen was, they were unable to imagine just how he managed to survive. Long Chen stood there with his arms clasped behind him. He was like a respectful audience member, calmly listening to Liao Yuhuang perform. "I'll embarrass myself." Seeing that he wasn't moved, Liao Yuhuang suddenly switched to playing her zither with both hands. His fingers rapidly moved across her strings. Zither music began to ring out in earnest, and it was possible to see ripples spread from her fingertips. The entire formation shuddered because of this music. Teacups shattered amongst the spectator stands. At the same time, people felt their souls quivering. It was as if their souls were being pulled out. "Are you all right?" Startled cries rang out. They saw their comrades had blood gushing out of their eyes, noses, and ears, seemingly without even noticing. The spectator stands were quickly thrown into chaos. Just at this moment, an extra barrier appeared on top of the martial stage. Once it appeared, the pain in their souls instantly dropped. They then stared in horror at Liao Yuhuang. They had never expected that zither music could cause such a terrifying effect. If it wasn't for the formation, then other than a few select peak experts here, who could resist it? Too terrifying. I've long since heard that the zither sect is the head of the 4 immemorial sects, and that they all have ancient inheritances. But it's rare to see the zither sect's disciples roaming the world. Today, I'm finally bearing witness to their power. People sighed in amazement. Coming to watch this martial Dao convention had definitely been the right decision. Liao Yuhuang is terrifying, but Long Chen is also a monster. His expression doesn't even twitch in the face of this attack. Space twisted on top of the martial stage, and ripples could be seen flying. As for Long Chen, he was standing merely 30 meters in front of Liao Yuhuang. Her music was clearly entering his ears. Suddenly, Liao Yuhuang's expression changed and the tempo increased, sounding hurried. Cracks covered the martial stage. The surface of the martial stage crumbled and sank, seemingly about to fall into a bottomless abyss. However, even as everything around Long Chen collapsed, a pillar of earth remained beneath Long Chen. It was like a single stalagmite. What is that? Is it an illusion? The bottomless abyss that had suddenly appeared on the martial stage was shocking. It was like the gaping maw of a giant beast. It doesn't seem to be. If it was an illusion, Long Chen wouldn't stand on the only stable place. He definitely used some technique to block Liao Yuhuang's attack and protect the land beneath him. Just as everyone was guessing, the martial stage slowly restored itself. This confirmed that it was no illusion, it was real. However, up until now, they had never seen such damage occur to the martial stage. Although I always felt that this Liao Yuhuang was a very powerful existence, I didn't expect her to be even more terrifying than I imagined. Xiaole stuck out his tongue. His intuition had told him that he couldn't beat Liao Yuhuang, but he had still underestimated her power. Just then, the urgent zither music came to a sudden stop, and a single heavy note rang out. In that instant, everyone watching felt like their hearts were being crushed. Everyone was shocked. They saw Liao Yuhuang holding her zither in one hand while the other pulled on a single string. This was no longer playing music. She had concentrated all her mysterious power into a single string. Liao Yuhuang then plucked the second string. As a result, everyone felt like their heads would split open. Feeling horrified, they didn't know if they should continue watching or flee. This was completely different from ordinary attacks. It was passing through the formation and injuring them. Just as Liao Yuhuang reached for the third string, Long Chen raised his head and roared. That roar seemed to contain a dragon cry, and it pierced through the formation and blasted apart the clouds in the sky. It was like a celestial roar, like a devil king's howl. A sound wave then unfurled throughout the martial stage. The zither music and the roar clashed, resulting in the martial stage shuddering intensely. Both Long Chen and Liao Yuhuang were then sent flying. After that, the two of them stabilized in the air. As for the martial stage beneath their feet, it was shattered and slowly recovered. From the start, its healing was unable to keep up with the destruction. Liao Yuhuang is injured. A startled cry rang out. They saw blood dripping from one of her hands that was hanging limply. My apologies. Your mental energy is too strong. That was already my limit. I had no choice but to counterattack, said Long Chen. Liao Yuhuang shook her head. My skills have yet to reach perfection, and there are still many holes between my notes. I really am ashamed. For Brother Long to only defend is already a great concession. I'm embarrassed to have taken out such an immature 5-note merger art. Thank you for having mercy. This battle has benefited me immensely. If I have a chance, I will definitely repay the favor. Liao Yuhuang cupped her fists to Long Chen and left with her zither. She admitted defeat. Long Chen then returned to the spectator stands. When he arrived, Luo Bing and the others immediately congratulated him. Just now, they really had been worried. No one had expected Liao Yuhuang to be so terrifying. Actually, she was the one who had mercy. We only had a mental clash. If we had fought all out, no one knows who would have won. Long Chen looked at the distant Liao Yuhuang and sighed. She was truly terrifying. Since that was the case, it would truly be the best decision for Ziyan to go to the Zither sect. Mental energy? How could mental energy be so terrifying? Demanded Lu Mingxian. Mental energy was the most difficult thing to cultivate. It was far too mysterious and difficult to gain. That terrifying battle had only been the result of a mental energy clash? That exceeded the scope of most people's understanding. The lots for the top 4 are being drawn, exclaimed Luo Bing suddenly. Hence, everyone instantly tensed. The next battles would be even more intense. Bai Shishir's tablet lit up. When they saw her opponent, everyone's expression grew heavy. Wuya. Bai Shishi finally encountered Wuya. Everyone knew that they would encounter each other sooner or later, but now that it happened, their hearts shook. Long Chen looked at his own tablet and sighed. It wasn't Gui Yun. He just saw the name before it grew dim. Clearly, his opponent had directly admitted defeat after seeing that it was him. The names of the fighters appeared in the air for everyone to see. Long Chen saw Bai Shishi against Wuya, and Gui Yun's opponent was Dai Wu. That Dai Wu was that mysterious woman of unknown origins. The other pair was none of their business. No one cared about them. Although they were both powerful, there was no way for them to compare to Wuya, Gui Yun, and the others. They had managed to reach this point, not thanks to power but luck. When the two of them saw that they were fighting, they directly had a secret discussion. One of them admitted defeat, giving the top 4 position to the other. But his opponent had to have given quite a bit in payment. However, even if that person managed to get into the top 4, his journey would stop there. He didn't even have the courage to fight the next match. What he wanted was nothing more than ranking. 2 of the 4 fights had resulted in people admitting defeat before the fight even started. Now all that remained were Bai Shishi's fight against Wuya and Gui Yun's fight against Dai Wu. Bai Shishi's expression was calm, not revealing the slightest nervousness. However, the others were fraught with nerves. After all, Wuya was a monster. When everyone returned to their residences to rest, Bai Shishi's mother called her daughter to her room. It was unknown what they were doing, but Bai Shishi didn't come back out until the next day. On the next day, when they returned, there was no cheering, only a monumental pressure hanging in the air. It was difficult to breathe. Everyone was staring nervously at Bai Shishi and Dai Wu. These 2 peerless beauties were about to fight 2 terrifying monsters. The High Firmament Academy's disciples clenched their fists, not even daring to say a thing. They all wished for Bai Shishi to win, but they were afraid that saying anything would affect her. Everyone had arrived, but there was still some time until the fight started. Hence, everyone was staring at Wuya, Gui Yun, Bai Shishi, and Dai Wu. Wuya was very large. Sitting there, he was like a small mountain. His eyes were closed, but the aura that he emitted terrified others. As for Gui Yun, he had put on a black cloak that covered most of his face. That was the garb of the Bloodkill Hall. He had actually chosen to switch his clothes for today's battle. Bai Shishi sat there Lotus style like a statue of a goddess. She hadn't said a word today. Suddenly, startled cries rang out. Dai Wu actually chose to stand and walk over from her corner. The shocking thing was that she was heading toward Long Chen. Under countless flabbergasted stares, Dai Wu walked over to Long Chen. Even Long Chen was surprised. "Miss Dai Wu, do you need something?" Even Bai Shishi opened her eyes and looked over. Luo Bing and the others were all staring, not knowing what Dai Wu wanted. After all, from the start, Dai Wu had never said anything to them. They had had no interactions. Why would she suddenly come over? Dai Wu looked at Long Chen closely. She then slowly went on one knee, took Long Chen's hand, and kissed the back of it. Warrior blessed by the butterfly spirit race, if I die, I beg you to help me achieve my heart's desire and slay that evildoer. Long Chen was shocked. This woman actually knew that he had the mark of the butterfly spirit race on the back of his hand. Bai Shishi and the others were even more shocked. They covered their mouths, unable to believe what they were seeing. Such a powerful woman was on her knee in front of Long Chen? What was going on? The rest of the crowd was shocked as well, but they also felt profound envy for him. This indescribably beautiful woman had actually acted so intimate with Long Chen. Just at this moment, the martial stage was activated. Dai Wu looked at Long Chen profoundly and vanished, reappearing on the martial stage. As for Long Chen's hand, her fragrance remained on it. Before Long Chen even understood what was going on, Dai Wu and Gui Yun were on the martial stage. Gui Yun indifferently said, "You came for revenge?" Dai Wu coldly said, "In order to obtain the blessing of the heavenly Daos, you used the cruelest method to extract the soul of the butterfly spirit race, making her experience unimaginable pain before her death. The butterfly spirit race is innately kind. They never hold grudges against anyone. But as her companion flower spirit, I'm not so kind. I want revenge. I will use your life as an offering to her heroic spirit." Hearing this, an uproar exploded. The spirit butterfly race was known as the kindest of all races, and they never fought with others. Even when others killed their members, they never held a grudge and went for revenge. The spirit butterfly race never provoked anyone and only helped others. Moreover, if others helped them, they would remember it for a lifetime. They were very rarely seen. But if someone did encounter them, he or she wouldn't harm them. They were simply too kind for the people to bear harming them intentionally. Gui Yun had killed one? And as cruelly as possible? That instantly angered countless people. The path of cultivation is one where the strong are respected, while the weak are prey. As someone strong, I will naturally trample over others as my stepping stones. If I reach the undying realm, I will naturally be blessed by the heavens. Her death will also count as having a use. How was I wrong? Gui Yun curled his lips disdainfully. Shut up. To reach that realm, you think you can freely trample over other people's lives? Do you know the true essence of life? As Dai Wu spread her hands, the martial stage transformed. Birdsong filled the air, and grass covered the ground. Small creeks and rivers cut through the plains that were filled with a strong scent of flowers. At this moment, one beautiful butterfly after another appeared flitting across the flowers. There was one particular young butterfly playing around a pretty flower. The flowers suddenly grew, revealing a girl inside of it. Following that, the butterfly also transformed into the appearance of a girl. The two girls held hands and laughed, running around the grass. Their innocent laughter was enough to make people forget the ruckus of the world. They immersed themselves in this world. The scene progressed. The two girls grew, and an identical rune appeared on their foreheads. The girl that had transformed from a flower was Dai Wu. In that instant, everyone understood. After that, the scene changed once more. A woman with butterfly wings was bound to a sacrificial altar, screaming in pain. Chains pierced through her body. At the end of those chains was a pudgy hand. When he saw that sight, killing intent soared in Long Chen's eyes, and it wasn't just him. Everyone was infuriated. Brute! The hand holding the chains belonged to Gui Yun. Spiritual runes flowed down the chain, absorbed into his hand. The spirit butterfly woman screamed in pain. However, Gui Yun remained expressionless, completely ignoring her pain of having her soul torn out. It was not long before her screams grew weaker, until they were gone. As her soul was extinguished, her physical body began to corrode until it turned into dust. A light breeze then made it vanish into heaven and earth. My butterfly dance race is another spiritual race along with the butterfly spirit race. I had a lifelong contract with her. After she died, my longevity also almost came to an end. The butterfly spirit race might be too kind to hold grudges, but my butterfly dance race is different. I will avenge her. Dai Wu's gaze contained pain, hatred, and endless killing intent. I've killed plenty of people from the butterfly spirit race. There are also plenty of people who have come for revenge. But weaklings are weaklings. They can only resign themselves to their fate. Do you not understand? This is simply your fate. Gui Yun laughed as if he had heard something incredibly funny. Just then, the barrier between them vanished and Dai Wu waved her hand. After that, the earth split open and wooden thorns shot out. At the same time, ripples appeared in the air and space crumbled. Fragments of space-time danced through the air. The majestic energy even extended out of the formation to give the spectators a suffocating feeling. It felt as if their bodies would be torn apart. The wooden thorns then struck the martial stage's barrier, causing it to shudder. Ripples appeared in it. There were vague signs of it breaking, shocking everyone. What kind of power is this? Wooden thorns and giant vines twisted through the entire martial stage. It became a world of wood. Through the formation, they could see Dai Wu had appeared in the air. She actually began to dance. Her movements seemed to be the epitome of the heavenly dance. It was as if a single move from her, a single gaze, could draw forth the power of the heavenly dance. I understand. She is using the body as the Tao. Her dancing takes the place of her hand seals, exclaimed Luo Shui. This was her first time hearing of such a magical race. Dai Wu was like a majestic elf dancing in the air. As she danced, wooden stakes and twisting vines roared through the air, twisting together into a giant wooden dragon. The martial stage had long since vanished beneath this wooden world. As for Gui Yun, he was covered by it as well. When cracks appeared on the martial stage's barrier, a second barrier appeared again. Only then was Dai Wu's power contained. This sight left people trembling. They could sense just how terrifying that wooden dragon was. Even space was compressed to the point that it was about to collapse, so a normal physical body would be crushed to smithereens. Even primals couldn't get close. This was what they called absolute power. Where is Gui Yun? Was he killed? The wooden dragon had covered the entire martial stage. They couldn't see Gui Yun's figure. Suddenly, a blinding ray of light appeared on the martial stage, and that wooden dragon was blasted to bits. What? Gui Yun's figure appeared, his body surrounded by divine flames that burned as intensely as the sun. He was like a god. The wooden stakes couldn't even approach him. Like a moth flying into the fire, you chose to kill yourself. Within those flames came Gui Yun's disdainful voice. People stared in disbelief. How was such a powerful magical art broken so easily by him? It seems that I underestimated your wickedness. You've killed far too many members of the butterfly spirit race. You've managed to fully merge with the butterfly spirit race's blessing. They are the companion race to my butterfly dance race, and you've used their blessing to break my butterfly dance race's secret art. No matter how great my power is, I can't do anything to you. Dai Wu looked at Gui Yun, her eyes full of hatred yet also profound helplessness. This secret art could only be countered by the butterfly spirit race. She had been hoping to use this secret art to suppress him, but unexpectedly, he had absorbed far too much of the butterfly spirit race's souls and blood. Not only that, but he must have also killed many experts of the butterfly dance race. He was very clear on their secret arts. Otherwise, there was no way he could break out so easily. That's why I said that you're a moth flying into the fire. If you hadn't come here, you would have had at least a few months left. But you just had to send yourself to your death. Since that's the case, I won't stand on courtesy. I will be taking your wood spirit energy. Gui Yun suddenly began to walk through the air toward Dai Wu. As he walked, anything that was in his way disintegrated. I see. You've not only absorbed the essence of the butterfly spirit race but also my butterfly dance race. As an assassin, you specialize in concealing yourself. Meanwhile, we, the butterfly dance race, possess the divine ability to merge into heaven and earth. You wish to gain this ability to make your concealing arts flawless. A spark of understanding appeared in Dai Wu's eyes. So what even if you understand now? In my eyes, weaklings like yourselves aren't qualified to complain or resist. You exist in this world to be used by the strong. That is your fate. Don't blame me. You can only blame yourselves for being too weak. Gui Yun suddenly vanished. The space behind Dai Wu split open, and a hand reached out for Dai Wu's head. However, a flower mark then appeared on Dai Wu's hand. Space twisted, and she slammed her hand into that hand. As a result, a powerful explosion caused the space inside the stage to collapse. The spectators jumped in shock. A single palm could make space explode? Just what kind of power did it contain? Watch out! Long Chen suddenly shouted a warning, but it was too late. Dai Wu's palm struck nothing but air. That hand was not Gui Yun's true body. Just at that moment, a sinister dagger stabbed through the back of her heart. Gui Yun's fat and wicked face appeared out of thin air. Inferior life form, now do you believe in your fate? Everyone's breathing stopped. Dai Wu's palm caused space to collapse, but Gui Yun's dagger had stabbed through her heart. Even through the formation, the sinister air of that dagger made people's souls shudder. It was like a devil had cursed it, giving it a sinister, dark, and bloodthirsty chi. Black runes instantly covered Dai Wu's body. It was like a net binding prey, and her body began to petrify. Gui Yun, release her and I will use her life to trade for yours, announced Long Chen. Whether it was the butterfly spirit race or the butterfly dance race, they were both innately kind races. Long Chen was unwilling to watch them just die. Although he also knew that Dai Wu wouldn't be able to live long due to the loss of her contractual partner, he was unwilling to watch this. That should not be her fate. Perhaps he might even have a medicinal pill that could save her life. Gui Yun was startled. He quickly understood his meaning and laughed. Long Chen looked at her with a powerful light in his eyes. There's nothing to laugh about. I never joke with my enemies. The very first time I saw you, I was ready to kill you. If you release her, then when we fight I can spare your life. If you kill her, I, Long Chen, swear to hunt you down whether you flee to heaven or hell. Even if Imputa supports you, it won't change your fate of being killed by me. Long Chen's words reverberated through the air and through people's hearts. Long Chen was actually planning on killing Gui Yun? Where did that confidence come from? Haha, are you threatening me? How laughable. Gui Yun laughed until the fat on his face bounced. I've never threatened anyone. I'm only stating facts, said Long Chen. Seeing Dai Wu captured, an indescribable sorrow appeared in his heart. Did this world really have such a thing as kindness being repaid by kindness? Then why would such a kind race end up in such a miserable plight? In the lower plane, he encountered the spirit race and the Luo spirit race. They were all kind races. But what did their kindness receive in return? They only received grief and pain. The mortal world was like that, and the immortal world was the same. Lord Brahma's hands had spread throughout the immortal world. His dogs were all over the 9 lands and 10 lands. Imputa was nothing more than one of his dogs, but he had established the blood-kill hall that terrified people. Lord Brahma was Long Chen's fated enemy. The losses of the 5 sovereigns, of Ling Yunzi, of the old man, of Chu Jianying, of Hu Feng, of everyone in that battle, it all could be traced back to Lord Brahma. Even if Long Chen wasn't a 9-star heir, he would not let off Lord Brahma. For Gui Yun to appear before him, he definitely wouldn't let him leave alive. However, at this moment, Long Chen was willing to let him go for Dai Wu. This was no threat. But other than himself, everyone else thought that he was crazy. Just as everyone was staring at him in shock and contempt, Dai Wu smiled gently. Long Chen, you're a good person, a true warrior. My butterfly dance race will always remember your favor. However, I don't have long left. Letting off this fiend isn't worth it. Dai Wu's words were suddenly cut off by a scream. Gui Yun's dagger had started to suck away her soul essence and spirit blood. Stop! You brute! Stop at once! Countless cries rang out from the spectator stands. Boom! A black figure suddenly charged at the martial stage. As a result, Divine light flowed on top of the martial stage's barrier, and a runic sword shot out. This idiot! By Shishi and the others were stunned. Chen had actually charged toward the stage. It had to be known that the martial stage's formation prevented such interference. Even the flower butterfly patriarch, a divine lord expert, was seriously injured by it. Why did Chen suddenly turn into an idiot at such a time? This action was practically sending himself to his death. The runic sword whistled toward Chen. At this moment, runes flowed on top of Chen's hand, and a cluster of flames appeared on his fingers. Every cluster contained different runes. Bang! Chen's palm then slammed into the runic sword, and it was actually sent flying into the air. In an instant, everyone was stunned. That runic sword was sent flying by Chen? The barrier once more shuddered. Multiple runic swords now whistled toward Chen. Brave warrior, thank you for your kindness. Right now, all I can do is this. A flower rune suddenly appeared on Dai Wu's hand, and she slammed it behind her. It happened so suddenly that even Gui Yun didn't expect her to be capable of such a thing. Boom! Dai Wu's hand slammed into Gui Yun's body. He coughed up blood, and his chest was almost pierced. A flower mark was branded into his chest. Dai Wu smiled. You never expected this, right? I know that I can't beat you, so that palm of mine was missed intentionally. A portion of my power was sealed into my other hand, and my spiritual seal is now branded on your body. With Chen's blessing of the butterfly spirit race, even if your concealing arts are really perfect, you won't be able to escape his senses. This is all I can do. I believe that a warrior like him can kill you once you can't hide from him. Then I've also accomplished my mission. I can join my companion. The remaining light in her eyes vanished. Just like that, she fell from the air. Her final palm had exhausted all her remaining longevity. But a sweet smile still remained on her face. Gui Yun was shocked and enraged. He circulated his energy, but he was unable to remove the mark on his chest. That mark was bizarre. It sank into his bloodline, his bones, and even his soul. Slut die! Gui Yun furiously unleashed a fist, blasting apart Dai Wu's body. However, no blood appeared. She transformed into flower petals that danced through the air. The butterfly dance race was not human. It could be considered a branch of the flower demons, so those flower petals were her body. They fell, the final ending of a beautiful life. Gui Yun. Chen's voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Somehow, he had avoided all those runic swords and was now standing in front of the martial stage's barrier. But it was too late. Dai Wu died. A kind woman met her end due to revenge, but she left with a smile. The impression she left behind left everyone in sorrow. It made people feel that this world was unfair. The butterfly spirit and the butterfly dance races were companions. Watching as those petals fell, people felt like they could see a beautiful butterfly flitting through the petals. The flowers and butterflies were beautiful. They transformed into two girls holding hands and laughing as they ran through the grass. They could almost hear their innocent laughter. They loved this world and loved peaceful lives. They were kind and pure. But their world had been shattered. At this moment, the flower petals faded into heaven and earth. Countless people's eyes were wet without them even realizing it. Just how many people wished to live a life like that? Just how many people wish to escape the struggles of the cultivation world and live a peaceful life somewhere far away? A life where you didn't need to worry about whether you would live to see the next day. However, today, they personally witnessed that world they dreamed of broken. Hence, countless people clenched their fists furiously, gazing at Gui Yun with hatred. Chen stood in front of the barrier. Everyone saw him clenching his fists so hard that veins throbbed in them. His body was still quivering. It seemed that his fury had reached some kind of limit. Chen. At this moment, Bai Shishi, Lu Mingxian, Luo Shui, Luo Qing, and the others ran over to pull Chen back and calm him down. If he attacked the barrier, it would no longer just passively defend. It would truly attempt to wipe him out. Helpless anger is so pathetic. Don't rush. I'll send you to accompany them soon since you like them so much. said Gui Yun contemptuously. He was sent off the stage. On the spectator stands, he made a throat-cutting gesture toward Long Chen. Long Chen, don't be impetuous. You'll get to fight him soon. You're also worrying Fairy Shishi. How can she fight Wuya in this state? Said Luo Shui, noticing that Long Chen's blood qi was circulating even faster. It seemed that he was about to charge at Gui Yun. Bai Shishi looked at Long Chen without saying a word. Long Chen was clenching his teeth. But after looking at Bai Shishi, he suppressed his anger. Luo Shui was correct. Bai Shishi was about to start fighting. Ignoring whether or not Gui Yun would even welcome his fight outside the ring, even if he did, the hosts would not allow it. This would only affect Bai Shishi, while Wuya remained unaffected. Thinking of this, he suppressed his anger and they returned to their seats. Bai Shishi and the others relaxed slightly, but Long Chen still didn't say a word. His face was shockingly dark. Compared to his normal teasing self, he seemed like a different person. He almost felt like a stranger. They couldn't imagine how someone as smart as Long Chen would do something as stupid as charging at the martial stage. That was purely courting death. Even a madman wouldn't do such a thing. Bai Shishi's tablet began to flash, indicating that she was about to go on stage. Long Chen suddenly grabbed her arm. Wuya's power counters yours. Victory or defeat will be decided in the first 10 moves. Bai Shishi nodded. Long Chen's thinking was the same as hers. Her metal energy made her specialize in wide-area attacks. However, against a power-type fighter, if they were on the same level, he could pierce through the openings in her attacks to counterattack. A terrifying expert like Wuya had plenty of combat experience, so he had probably figured this out. If he got used to her attack style, then as time dragged on, Bai Shishi's chances of victory would fall. The two of them then appeared on the martial stage. Bai Shishi was like a goddess. The entire martial stage was veiled in a mysterious aura because of her existence. Another woman. But don't worry, I'm not like that fellow. I'll take care of you properly. Wuya smiled at Bai Shishi. A touch of avarice appeared in his eyes. No one could remain unmoved in the face of such peerless beauty. What a low-level provocation. If you think you can anger me like this, you're wrong. I'm not like that brainless oaf, said Bai Shishi coldly. Naturally, that brainless oaf was Long Chen. She was also curious why Long Chen's character seemed to have gone through such an immense change after the martial Dao convention started. In the Jialan Immortal Land, he had been like a brilliant general, collected and cool. Their enemies were toyed with in the palm of his hand. But lately he had been growing more and more foolish and easier to anger. How spicy. I like it. Wuya's face darkened slightly. That smile of his was like that of a hunter staring at his prey. At this moment, black spots appeared on his body. It was like he was becoming a corpse. Those spots then grew larger until they became viper-like patterns covering his body. Black qi came from him, and people seemed to smell the scent of death from that black qi. Wuya was no longer as arrogant as before against Bai Shishi. As his aura circulated, an invisible pressure slowly grew. When the black qi around him suffused the air, the bricks beneath his feet began to corrode. Seeing this, Bai Shishi formed hand seals, and a golden mark appeared beneath her feet. Her divine might made her appear even more beautiful and untouchable. That golden mark beneath her feet had caused all of her competitors to retreat. Up until now, she had never been forced to actually use its power. All her opponents had simply admitted defeat as soon as they saw it. Now that it reappeared, countless people were filled with anticipation. They wanted to know just what this mark meant. It seemed that this riddle was about to be revealed. That black qi is Wuya's corpse qi. It is not only poison, but it also contains corpse energy. It can corrode heavenly Dao energy and invade the soul. Even as a member of the full moon race that is said to be invulnerable to poison, I couldn't block it. This Wuya is very difficult to deal with, said young Master Changchuan. Of everyone here, the only one that had truly fought against Wuya was young Master Changchuan. He was the only one who knew how terrifying this beast was. Boom. When the barrier separating them vanished, black and golden light instantly clashed. The moment that their two energies mixed, the martial stage was thrown into chaos. Die! Wuya suddenly charged it by Shishi like a bolt of lightning. He charged right into her domain with a black wolf tooth club. As a result, the ground beneath by Shishi suddenly collapsed. A golden lotus burst out of it. It rapidly grew, smashing into Wuya. A giant explosion then shook the martial stage. That's it. That made me feel so much pressure it felt like my soul was being stabbed. I had no choice but to concede. When that golden lotus appeared, a primal shouted. He had faced by Shishi, but when this golden lotus mark appeared, a sensation of death enveloped him. If he had continued fighting, it felt like his death would be doubtless. Several other primals had the same experience. They all trusted in their gut feeling. Now that the golden lotus truly appeared, that feeling was instantly confirmed. If they really had continued fighting back then, they wouldn't be alive now. The giant lotus unleashed explosive metal energy like a volcano erupting. Hence, the martial stage rocked like a boat on a furious sea, and even the very island that the martial stage was on quivered. Bai Shishi had started off with a wild attack. Wuya's wolf tooth club smashed into the golden lotus, only for him to be sent flying back like a meteor. He bounced off the ground several times, every time leaving a large hole in the ground before he smashed into the barrier at the edge of the martial stage. The barrier shuddered, and cracks spread where Wuya smashed into it. This power, this sight shocked people. Just how great of an impact did Wuya receive to be blown back so far and still smash cracks into the barrier? It seemed that if it was a bit stronger, he would have pierced straight through the barrier. This will be fun. Wuya fell from the barrier, but he seemed completely fine as he shook out some muscles. It seemed that even such an impact was unable to cause him any injuries. The barrier behind him quickly healed itself. The cracks faded. It was as if nothing had happened. With his wolf tooth club in hand, Wuya walked back toward Bai Shishi. He sneered, "In the current era, no one can compete with me in terms of physical body. The corpse Devil Dao's inheritance will shine in my hands. Submit to me and be my dual cultivation partner. Otherwise, when I rule this world, I will destroy your high firmament academy." Wuya's voice resounded throughout heaven and earth with unlimited arrogance. With every step he took, the void shuddered, and the pressure increased. On the seventh step, black chi condensed behind him into a black figure. That figure raised its head and roared. With a single roar, the entire barrier instantly became covered in cracks. The spectators covered their ears and screamed. "It's the sound of the heavenly howlers," exclaimed an expert of the senior generation. The heavenly howlers could be considered an ancient species. Their bodies were like apes, and they had long arms and short legs. It was said that they could crush stars with a single hand and shatter the heavens with a single howl. No one had expected Wuya's manifestation to be such an ancient beast. It was a terrifying beast famed for its power. Just its roar was enough to terrify everyone. Wuya was no human, he was a monster. However, Bai Shishi remained indifferent. Even after summoning her golden lotus and blasting Wuya away, she didn't pursue him. She only formed hand seals. Her hand seals were quick. In the blink of an eye, she finished hundreds of seals, and it was impossible to even see her fingers as they flew. Struggling is useless. In front of my absolute power, you can't do anything, sneered Wuya, swinging his wolf tooth club. With a single swing, a giant tear in space appeared. It didn't heal for a long time. His power has reached the level of affecting laws? Divine Lord experts exclaimed their shock. It had to be known that only at the Divine Lord realm could they barely manage to interact with the profundities of laws. However, Wuya was only at the Divine Flame realm. Above the Divine Flame realm was still the Four-Peak realm. Only when four peaks were merged into one did one reach true divinity, becoming a Divine Lord. There were two major realms apart. One was on the earth, and the other was in the heavens. So how could Wuya possess this kind of power? The Divine Flame disciples and the Four-Peak experts might not know what he was doing, but the Divine Lord experts were stunned. No wonder they heard that he had slain Divine Lords before. They had thought that it was just some exaggerated rumors, but seeing this today, They no longer doubted it. Wuya truly was shocking. It seemed that he did possess the power to slay divine lords. It was also rumored that Gui Yun had slain divine lords as well, and not just one. However, that was understandable to these divine lords because Gui Yun was an assassin. An assassin specialized in killing targets that were even stronger than them. However, Wuya was no assassin. If he wanted to kill a divine lord, he would need to rely on true power. There was a difference between the two. As Wuya continued to walk toward Bai Shishi, an ear-piercing sound rang out from his wolf-tooth club that shook people's hearts. Suddenly, Bai Shishi's hand seals came to a stop, and golden light burst into existence behind her. A giant ring of golden light appeared with sparks of light within it. As more of them appeared, people realized that they formed a miniature person. This person slowly grew larger until it appeared to be a long-haired woman. She was slender and elegant, like a goddess that had come from ancient times, yet also like a fairy that had descended from the heavens. When they saw her, it felt like time came to a stop. She continued to grow larger and eventually walked out of the ring of light. At this moment, Bai Shishi's body suddenly became illusory. The figure merged with her, and then the two of them walked onto the golden lotus. After that, the golden lotus shrank. Some kind of mysterious power caused space to collapse. When the golden lotus was only about 3 feet long, Bai Shishi was once more Bai Shishi. But she was now one with that golden figure. She appeared the same, but her black hair had turned golden. Her eyes also had golden marks revolving within them. She had become a golden war goddess. Activating my bloodline power for the first time actually took so much time. But it's done. Bai Shishi looked at her own hand. Upon seeing the golden lines flowing on top of it, a slight smile appeared on her face. After that, the sound of her sword coming out of its sheath rang out clearly. She shot out, a streak of golden light flashing through the air. Wuya suddenly roared and swung his club. However, he missed. The next moment, golden light flashed, and an arm flew into the air along with a spray of fresh blood that was black as ink. People only saw a flash of golden light. They didn't even see what Bai Shishi did. But with a flash of golden light, Wuya's arm separated from the rest of his body. She's too fast. It was only once the golden light stopped that they saw Bai Shishi once more standing on her golden lotus. She slowly turned, her sword still stained with specks of Wuya's black blood. With golden light shining around her, Bai Shishi appeared to be peerlessly noble and sacred. She even possessed a strange Dao charm that seemed to separate her from the rest of the world, as if she didn't belong. Suddenly, Bai Shishi moved again. Her golden lotus quivered and she appeared in front of Wuya. When her sword fell, streaks of golden light condensed, as if a river of stars was slashing down. Boom! Wuya shouted, and with a single arm he blocked with his club. This time, he had grasped Bai Shishi's movements. However, Wuya was sent flying. A streak of golden sword chi shot out, piercing through the barrier. Watch out! Seeing the sword chi pierce through the barrier, startled cries rang out, especially from the people in its path. They didn't even have time to get out of the way. Boom! Suddenly, another runic barrier appeared in front of the spectator stands, blocking the golden sword chi. Only then could those people wipe off their cold sweat. So there was actually another barrier protecting the spectators. 10,000 swords seal space. Suddenly, Bai Shishi let out a shout, and golden light condensed into sharp swords that rained down on Wuya. They covered the entire martial stage, and there was no way for him to dodge them all. Their sharpness caused a screeching sound as they passed through the air. Metal energy was particularly sharp. It was said to be able to pierce all defenses. Bai Shishi's current metal energy truly did appear unstoppable. However, Wuya raised his head and laughed. His severed arm had at some unknown point regrown itself. It's useless. My physical body isn't something that you can imagine. Sharp metal energy is useless. Wuya wasn't even done speaking before countless swords pierced through his body. His black blood splashed everywhere, leaving him riddled with holes. However, shockingly, his body would quickly heal. In less than half a breath's time, His physical body would appear the exact same as before. How can this be? Does he possess an undying body? Everyone was stunned. Terror appeared in Lu Mingxuan's eyes. His recovery ability is just that terrifying. But it's much stronger than when I encountered him, said young Master Changchuan. There is no such thing as a true undying body in this world. Wuya simply has strong self-recovery. On the other hand, Shishi's attacks are sharp, but don't contain any divine energy or heavenly Tao will that remains on the wounds. Hence, she can only attack his body but not his spirit. As she can't damage his core, such an attack is useless. Long Chen shook his head, his expression just as grave as young Master Changchuan's. Big Sister Shishi? She should understand this, no? Then why, said Luo Shui. Long Chen said, from the way she formed hand seals and summoned her manifestation, it's clear that this is her first time unleashing this power. Her primal bloodline has only just awoken, and it hasn't fully merged with heavenly Tao energy. She is unable to add her own will and mental energy to her attacks. Long Chen knew that this was most likely related to Bai Shishi's seal. In order to conceal Bai Shishi's power, the High Firmament Academy had intentionally prevented her from awakening her primal bloodline. The benefit of this was that outsiders were unaware that she was a primal, and she was able to grow up peacefully without fear of being assassinated. Another benefit was that with her primal bloodline about to awaken, by suppressing it, the eruption would be even greater. Done properly, it could be very beneficial to her. However, there were drawbacks as well. Now that she had just awoken her bloodline, she was inexperienced and unable to control this power. Her metal energy was sharp but didn't possess enough destructive power. It was unable to cause any fatal injuries to Wuya. It wasn't that she wasn't strong but that her primal bloodline was too powerful, to the point that she couldn't fully control it. She was unable to turn it into effective killing power. Hence, Long Chen started to worry for her. Bai Shishi suddenly stepped into the air. With 3 steps in 3 different directions, thousands of figures of her appeared. It was as if there were thousands of Bai Shishi. People were unable to tell which was the true body. Wuya suddenly roared and smashed his club in the air. After that, a powerful explosion unleashed golden light. They saw a golden sword had struck his club. From the thousands of Bai Shishis in the air, he had managed to pinpoint where the true Bai Shishi was. Even so, he coughed up a mouthful of blood and was sent flying by her sword. Bai Shishi's figure reappeared in the air. At some point, her lotus throne had vanished. But now there was a lotus mark on her sword. Well done. Long Chen slapped his leg, cheering for her. This was very clever of her. She had realized her own problem and had directly attacked Wuya with her core energy. That golden lotus was her manifestation. Contrary to other people, it was also the source of her metal energy. She was unable to control that vast power properly and was unable to add her own mental energy and will to her attacks. Thus, she had been unable to cause the heavenly Tao to assist in her attacks and unable to cause any damage to Wuya. However, by merging her core energy into her sword, she made it simple. Rather than technique, she competed purely with core energy, and that could make up for her lack of control. A clash of core energy was a direct clash of power. Her sword tore through the air. Wuya once more blocked it and was sent flying again, coughing up blood. He was enraged. He didn't want to compete in core energy against Bai Shishi. Bai Shishi wasn't his ultimate goal. If he harmed his core while fighting Bai Shishi, he would be at a disadvantage in the next match if he encountered Gui Yun or Long Chen. Whether it was damage to his physical body or his spiritual body, either was easier to heal. But if his core energy was damaged, it would be impossible to recover within half a month. His goal was the Golden Dragon Scale, and his ultimate opponent was Gui Yun. He didn't want to waste his energy on Bai Shishi. But now, with every exchange, he was injured. Let's see how long you can last? Bai Shishi snorted. Wuya wasn't using his core energy, resulting in her using up very little of her own core energy. She was confident that her core energy was stronger than Wuya's. Boom-de-boo-boo. Bai Shishi repeatedly forced Wuya back. The entire martial stage was covered in his black blood. No, Long Chen's expression suddenly changed. He shot up and shouted, "Shishi, admit defeat." Luo Bing and the others jumped in shock. Why would Long Chen suddenly say such a thing? Bai Shishi clearly had the advantage and was making Wuya cough up blood with every blow. Too late. Wuya suddenly laughed and tossed aside his weapon. He then formed a hand seal. Corpse Devil 9 Revolution, Ghost Curse devours life. Black spots condensed in the air. No one had noticed that when he was coughing up blood, some of his blood would disperse into the air. Only Long Chen had noticed. That dissipated blood had secretly condensed into something that seemed like a diagram. When Long Chen saw that diagram, a sensation of intense danger filled his body. He instantly realized then that Wuya was coughing up blood not because of Bai Shishi's core energy, but because he was setting up a trap. However, it was too late. The black spots condensed into sinister life forms. These life forms' upper bodies were like a toad, but their lower bodies were hair-like tentacles. An air of resentment erupted. It was as if souls that had died wrongly 10,000 years ago were now coming to demand vengeance. Even divine lords felt a chill. The spectators were horrified. Is this the legendary corpse devils? When experts die, their resentment doesn't dissipate. Instead, it is absorbed and transformed into a beast that devours resentment. If it is allowed to grow forever, it can eventually destroy the entire world, said someone with a shuddering voice. There were all kinds of rumors about the corpse devil Dao. Most people didn't have much concrete information on it. However, there was such a record of it. These are corpse monsters, not corpse devils. A corpse devil can only be formed when an extremely powerful expert dies with too much resentment. They don't enter reincarnation and instead become a corpse devil. Such a corpse devil possesses its own instinctual will and is very difficult to control. Even if it could be controlled, it wouldn't be something that a divine flame disciple like Wuya could control. Furthermore, he would need to constantly feed it his essence, blood and soul energy just to prevent it from dying. Done badly, the corpse devil would devour him. Even if he could control one, he wouldn't be able to control this many. These can only be considered corpse monsters. I heard that the corpse devil Dao has an extremely sinister secret art in which you torture someone as cruelly as possible in order to create as much resentment, and then you extract that resentment to form a corpse monster. A corpse monster isn't as strong as a corpse devil, but it's easier to control, said a divine lord who was slightly informed on the topic. Just at this moment, black spots appeared on Bai Shishi's sword. A black pattern also appeared on her body. Those tentacled creatures opened their mouths and shot out black threads that matched the black patterns of Bai Shishi's body. Bai Shishi was shocked to find that she could no longer move. Some kind of power bound her body, and endless resentment spirits attacked her mind. Sharp cries rang out in her mind. Haha, you're too naive. All that power and you can't control it. You want to compete using core energy? Childish. I used my essence blood to lay down this corpse devil grand curse formation. You should accept your fate. Wuya walked toward Bai Shishi. Bai Shishi was shaking, and her eyes had lost focus. She was currently battling with the resentment spirits in her mind. If those resentful spirits won, her soul would be consumed, and she would fall under Wuya's control. Wuya suddenly turned to look at Long Chen and dipped his thumb down at him. Long Chen instantly shot up. Long Chen, if you attack the formation, you will be killed. Luo Shui and the others instantly grabbed him. Wuya was intentionally provoking Long Chen to get him killed. Last time, although Long Chen had managed to get close to the formation, he hadn't attacked it, so he had only triggered the formation's passive attacks. If he actually attacked the formation, then the resulting backlash would wipe out even a divine lord. Long Chen would definitely die. However, Luo Shui and the others felt a burst of power, and their blood qi flipped inside of them. They were blown back. They cried out, but Long Chen had charged toward the martial stage. All the spectators cried out in shock. Just how was he so foolish? Runic swords immediately shot out of the barrier at Long Chen. Long Chen darkly dodged them as he pressed onward. Long Chen knew just how terrifying this curse was. He had also been cursed once. This kind of power wasn't something that Bai Shishi could resist. Wuya was even more terrifying than he had expected. Although Bai Shishi was powerful, she lacked experience and hadn't been able to see through his ploy. As for himself, due to being separated by the barrier, it was too late by the time he reacted. You really are an idiot. Why don't you come in and fight? If you don't dare, I'll take off Bai Shishi's clothes in front of everyone so that the world can enjoy her beauty. Wuya laughed when saw that Long Chen really had charged over. He walked up to Bai Shishi and extended a hand. Stop! Long Chen roared. He had reached the barrier, which stopped shooting runic swords. Instead, it was now condensing one giant rune that grew until it ultimately shrank into a single mark that was like an eye gazing at Long Chen. This eye contained a power that made heaven and earth shake. As long as Long Chen got closer, it would mercilessly wipe him out. Long Chen don't. Lu Mingxian and the others cried out, fraught with worry. Mu Qingyun was even crying. If Long Chen charged over, he wouldn't be able to save Bai Shishi. He would only throw away his life. That eye possessed a power that made even divine lords shudder. As for Long Chen, he slowly extended a hand. Don't. Bai Shishi suddenly opened her eyes and shouted. The resulting distraction caused her to cough up blood. Bai Shishi was currently fighting off the spiritual invasion of Wuya's curse. She had only just formed a temporary spiritual defense and was preparing to counterattack when she saw Long Chen standing in front of the barrier. In her panic, she shouted, only for this to cause her defenses to weaken. Long Chen, if you're a man, then come. Wuya reached his hand toward Bai Shishi. Long Chen's pupils instantly turned black. The next moment, a black saber even longer than him appeared in his hand. Just then Wuya's hand touched Bai Shishi. However, a golden rune suddenly lit up on her forehead, blazing like a sun. As for Wuya, he felt like a meteor had struck him, and he was sent flying. A seal? Wuya's expression completely changed. When that golden rune appeared, a sacred pressure enveloped this world. The instant that rune appeared, Bai Shishi was teleported out of the martial stage. He returned to the spectators' stands, unconscious. Her seal has finally been undone. Up in the outer spectator stand, Bai Shishi's mother sighed with relief. When they had first placed a seal in Bai Shishi's body, they hadn't expected a certain thing. Due to the existence of the outer seal, Bai Shishi's most primeval bloodline power began to fall into a slumber and formed its own seal. It was only when Bai Shishi's mother undid the outer seal that she noticed this problem. Despite doing her best, she was unable to stimulate that slumbering power. However, she also didn't dare to speak of it to Bai Shishi. After all, Bai Shishi had to face this battle. If she mentioned it to Bai Shishi, then with her character, if she lost, she would hate them to death. This deepest part of her bloodline needed to be awakened by herself. It would only awaken when she urgently needed it or was on the verge of death. Other than a seal, Bai Shishi's body also had a protective talisman. Bai Shishi herself was unaware of this, but when her mother had noticed that deeper seal, she had secretly added this protective talisman. She naturally wouldn't allow her own daughter to die on the martial stage. This backup plan was then activated when Wuya dared to blaspheme her daughter, sending her out. Just as the protective talisman activated, her slumbering bloodline power was awakened. Although she had lost, this awakening made it all worth it. With Bai Shishi sent out, the martial stage returned to its original appearance. As for the barrier, even as Long Chen pointed his saber at it, the eye-like rune vanished with the end of the battle. Seeing Long Chen standing in front of the barrier like that, countless people felt him to be foolish for sending himself to his death. But they were even more shocked. Countless young maidens in particular grew infatuated with him. If someone was willing to risk their life like this for them, then they would also be willing to use their lives to protect that person. Regretfully, such a thing only existed in stories. People were all selfish. Who would send themselves to their deaths for others? However, Long Chen had done so twice, once for Dai Wu and once for Bai Shishi. Ignoring the rules of the martial stage, he had been going to charge through to save them. That foolishness truly made their hearts ache. Dai Wu had no relationship with Long Chen. Yet, just because of a single conversation, he was willing to throw his life away for her. Was there someone more foolish than him in this world? But this foolishness touched countless hearts. Wuya was also sent out of the martial stage, and he sighed regretfully inside. Just a bit more, and he would have baited Long Chen into being destroyed by the formation. Once he was dead, Wuya could focus entirely on his battle with Gui Yun. All you can do is acting. If you really had guts, you would have charged in sooner instead of going so slow. Are you just acting for others to see? Sneered Wuya. The spectators were enraged. Wuya's mouth was just as twisted and malicious as the rest of his body. However, no one dared to say anything. The corpse devil sex people were all cruel and merciless. They were all afraid of their reprisal, so they swallowed their anger. Long Chen didn't reply. He only silently put away his saber and returned to the spectator stand. He checked on by Shishi. After finding that she was fine, he returned to their residence. Everyone else also returned. They found that Long Chen was in seclusion, and no one dared to disturb him. Today, Long Chen's display was truly frightening. The next day, Bai Shishi woke up, fully recovered. A golden birthmark had appeared on her forehead. There was a golden rune within it. This golden rune seemed to possess power that could destroy heaven and earth. It was so powerful that others didn't even dare to look at it directly. Once Bai Shishi was awake, everyone's mood improved. Although she had lost, it was fine as long as she wasn't hurt. Furthermore, in the history of the 9 Prefecture Convention, no one from the High Firmament Academy had ever gotten into the top 8. That was already a very stunning accomplishment. On top of that, they still had Long Chen. The High Firmament Academy was actually fighting for first place. Their hope now rested on Long Chen. However, Long Chen hadn't said a word after the fight. They were all worried for him. Long Chen had lost his past intelligence and calm, and that was not a good premonition. Bai Shishi knocked on Long Chen's door, but he didn't open it, so she could only leave. When she went to her mother's room, the mother and daughter pair looked at each other. After that, Bai Shishi's mother shook her head. Foolish child, you've fallen for him. Nonsense. I won't fall for any man. I don't need one. Bai Shishi blushed and shook her head. I've told you before, once you encounter a foolish oaf willing to risk his life for you, you won't be able to escape. That's the fate of us women. I was also proud like you. Your father is a careless fool, completely different from the partner I dreamed of. But when he used his own body to receive an enemy's blade for me, I knew that I was doomed. When it comes to love, there is no such thing as subduing and being conquered. There is no stronger or weaker. There is no fight for status or position. When you fall for someone, you can only obediently surrender. Struggling is meaningless, said Bai Shishi's mother profoundly. Bai Shishi shook her head. I don't know your world, but you don't know my world either. Don't use your values to judge me. I am me. I am different from you. After saying that, she turned and left. Watching her back, a strange smile appeared on her mother's face. On the third day, Long Chen came out of his room. He was wearing a cloak that covered most of his face. Looking at him, no one dared to say a word. They simply followed him back to the island. When Long Chen appeared, the lots had yet to be drawn. Long Chen then directly went to the 4th remaining competitor who wasn't himself, Wuya, or Gui Yun. Hand me your tablet. Long Chen's voice was ice-cold and contained boundless killing intent. Every word seemed to be a bloody curse of death. That expert shivered. He had progressed to this point by paying his opponent, and he had no intention of fighting these 3 monsters. Hence, he handed over his tablet, quivering. Long Chen then smashed this tablet against his own, shattering it. Following that, the martial stage rumbled. Even the Huayun Trading Company's people were shocked. The lots weren't even drawn, so how was the martial stage activating? Long Chen, he activated the martial stage's blood match and wants to fight 1 against 2? Bai Shishi's mother's expression instantly changed. The entire crowd instantly erupted in chaos. When the martial stage was activated, a barrier appeared. It was covered in countless blood-colored chains. Heavens, the blood chains have appeared. This is a battle to the death. One side must die in order for it to be released, exclaimed a divine lord. Just like the Dao discussion stage, the martial Dao stage was also a divine item passed down from ancient times. Although it was Silver Moon City that oversaw it, even they didn't know much about its history. All they knew was that once the martial stage was activated, everything was done according to its laws. No one could interfere, or they would be killed by the martial stage. The martial stage also had its own special laws. People had tested them before. For example, someone had activated the martial stage's blood match once tens of thousands of years ago. When 4 experts appeared, they could do a 2-against-2 fight to the death. However, once such a match was started, one side had to die. If their battle took over a day without a victor being decided, everyone on the martial stage would be killed. Using that person's tablet, Chen had directly activated the blood match and then crushed that person's tablet, essentially making it a 1-against-2 battle to the death. Chen, have you gone mad? Shishi grabbed Chen furiously. She had never expected him to make such a choice. However, when she grabbed him, she saw his face and stiffened. 3 black marks had appeared in his eyes. I'm angry to the peak. I cannot wait any longer. Chen did his best to make his voice sound natural for Shishi, but it still grated. Yesterday, in the face of Wuya's provocation, even if he had to face the martial stage, he would still break it to save Shishi. Although Shishi was alright in the end, his rage had not dissipated. He had barely managed to endure it, but it was also during this time that he noticed those 3 black marks in his eyes. This was the power of the purgatory eyes, and it had started to leak out. Furthermore, his killing intent was completely uncontrollable. It was very painful. If he didn't unleash this energy, he would go mad. Thus, he couldn't wait. He decided to end things with Wuya and Gui Yun together. It was not to show off, but it was because he had no other choice. His anger had reached a peak. However, when Shishi heard these words, she thought about something else. Without realizing it, a layer of mist appeared in her eyes. She also thought of her mother's words. When a foolish oaf was willing to risk his life for her, her fate would be set. You must come back alive, otherwise. Shishi looked at Chen, her voice quivering ever so slightly. I will. Chen nodded. His tablet began to flash, and he appeared on the martial stage, facing Wuya and Gui Yun. The martial stage shuddered and rapidly grew. At this moment, an immense pressure caused the clouds to change color and the sky to rumble. Heavens, black clouds covering the heavens. What kind of premonition is this? The sunny day instantly became shrouded in black clouds. The world became dark, and a tense air pressed down on people's hearts. This ancient martial stage will base its defensive power on the power of its fighters and how much destructive power they have. However, under normal circumstances, its strengthening only occurs after it is partially destroyed. This time, the battle hasn't even started yet, but the martial stage has begun to strengthen itself. This signifies that their power has surpassed our expectations. Heavenly rumbling, black clouds. This is probably a premonition of a peerless heavenly genius falling. But we don't know who. I wonder who of these 3 is so powerful that even before dying, they invoke a heavenly Tao manifestation. People clenched their fists as they watched nervously. This was a battle between peak experts. They didn't dare to even blink for fear of missing something. Chen, I didn't expect you to be able to court death so flashily. Wuya sneered, wielding his wolf-tooth club in his hand. You really are making things hard on yourself. I don't want to fight with this fellow. A corpse devil cultivator isn't qualified to fight alongside me. Gui Yun looked at Wuya beside him and shook his head. Wuya's expression changed. Do you think that being Imputa's disciple makes you so amazing? You aren't even close to a match for me. Wuya was naturally enraged by Gui Yun's disdain. Of course, when it came to their background, he couldn't compare to a world king's disciple. However, he had absolute confidence in his power. Both of them taunted each other as if they were indifferent to Long Chen's existence. With Long Chen's face covered by his cloak, his body quivered. He then extended a hand, and a black saber appeared in it. Long Chen stood there with his black saber resting on his shoulder. He didn't unleash any aura, but the martial stage's barrier shuddered. After that, boundless killing intent passed through the barrier, causing the black clouds in the sky to shake and thunder to howl. The heavenly Daos were wailing. Just how many people has he killed? How can he frighten even the heavenly Daos? Shouted a divine lord. A person's killing intent was related to how many life forms they had killed. The millions and millions of people here were all experts, and it was unknown just how many divine lords there were. However, they had never seen someone with such terrifying killing intent. They stared in shock at Long Chen. This champion of the Tao discussion stage, whose smile was like that of a warm neighbor, had become a devil king from hell in the blink of an eye. Just where did this killing intent come from? This is Boss's true battle state. Make sure to watch closely. Qin Feng cried out excitedly. He was finally seeing Long Chen fight all out again. But Xiaole and the others weren't able to muster up any excitement, as they were all shaken by Long Chen's killing intent. There was only fear in their hearts, not excitement. Do you know why I challenged you 1 against 2 and activated the blood match? Long Chen looked at Wuya and Gui Yun, his voice icy like the summons of a death god. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.